morning. Hello, beautiful people. I'm here. It's one of those starts to the day. How the devil are you? How are you, lovely people? Beautiful people. Oh, just coming back at myself as you do. Oof, it is one of those starts to the day. How the devil are you? Oh, sorry about that, Craig. Craig is Sonia's hype girl. Yes, indeed. How are you all? You lovely, glorious, fantastic people already here. Can I just say, I noted last night that there were some comments and I read them and I thought, yeah, great, great, great. I'll read them again tomorrow. And they've gone this morning. Nothing to do with me, not at my hands. And I don't for a second think that my mods are removing them. So I have no idea. Good morning, Cheryl. Good morning to you. Hello, Delroy. You're live with me today. Fantastic. Wonderful to have you. See how we are living. Can we play Fantasy EDL, the fear game today? Love it. Love it. How long ago did the EDL actually disband? Oh, Mark is on holiday, so can listen live. Well, that is fantastic, Mark. That is wonderful to hear. Thank you, Jimmy. Well done on your Manc University whistleblower interview the other day. Very impressive numbers across all platforms. Yes. Is it approaching like 50K or some 50K views or something on X? Might be approaching 40K views on X. I'm not sure, but really good. That's X alone. So really, really pleased with that. I'll talk a little bit about that later. Craig has offered his elderly lady £20 to try out her stair lift. I think she's going to take me up on it. That's a dad joke, right? Marie says grand risings or might not have me for long. I have to go and get new glasses. Marie, don't talk to me about new glasses. I have new glasses all around me and I'm not wearing them, which is just horrendous, frankly, isn't it? Really remiss of me. Hello, Healing the Silence. And Jenny from the block. And Shinri and Rowie and Merv and Kath and Randy and who else am I seeing here? Leslie and Julie and Cavan and Christine and London Lady. Grand risings to you all, you beautiful people. Beautiful people. How are we all doing? Mike says, morning all, another day in the circus. And so say all of us, Mike. Lyra is alive and kicking, as indeed is Robert and Nicola. Good morning. My first time joining live. I normally listen on catch up. Welcome, Nicola. Bam, give her a warm welcome on the live chat. Jive, good morning from South Yorkshire. Oop, lot kicking off up north, innit? Good morning, Short Order Cook and Shalini. And how am I going to pronounce that? Sil Resnan. And June, happy Lionsgate. Yes, Lionsgate was yesterday. I think I am actually looking even more kind of lionish than usual today. My hair just wouldn't do as it was told. This is the thing about having a mane rather than hair. Right, where are we going to start? Goodness me. Well, this week seems to be getting more bizarre, crazier in the UK. WEF is all over us like a common rash, and we are heading faster into a martial law state where social media use is only for the tech billionaires and globalists. So what has happened since Monday? Well, the most senior cop in England, Sir Mark Rowley, dashed the reporter's microphone out of their hands. It crashed to the ground after he was asked about two-tier policing. Clearly not a happy bunny, but also a terrible role model. And I'm pretty certain that was also a criminal act. And the irony, of course, was that he did it when he was coming out of the Cobra meeting, and they had assembled the Cobra meeting, a government emergency meeting, to talk about thuggery on the streets. And there he was, the most senior cop being a thug on the streets. More about him later. Got quite an interesting history, that man. Then we have Elon Musk at war with the UK government. But are we being played again by one of the world's richest men? Add to that, a social media user was arrested and questioned yesterday about her post being the first to inaccurately name the Southport murderer. We talked about that last week, more on that a bit later. Oh, and then there was that clip of the Labour councillor who's calling for people to essentially have their head and neck separated. Not going to go into detail on YouTube, it'll get me in trouble. That's resulted in an arrest and a suspension. The far left are so warm and cuddly, aren't they? Don't you just want to snuggle them? And on top of that, one of our guests from Monday, activist Dutty Monkey, has gone viral in a clip where he is accused of being a police infiltrator. I've received so many messages, emails, inboxes on social media, and I am delighted to say that Ash has agreed to come back on later in the show to address it. So all of this and more. And you know what to do? Don't do anything. Don't go anywhere. Stay with us. Whether you're watching live or watching on catch up, thank you so much for being here. I am truly, truly grateful to have you. So just to say, as you probably know, I didn't support the actions on the streets as such because I could see where it was going to be leading to. But I don't like the priorities we seem to be having in our country. And yes, I do agree that we have a two-tier policing and a multitude of other two tiers, 3 and 4 tiers going on. And here's why I say it. 8 out of 10 perverts who download child abuse are not given a prison sentence. Whereas yesterday we were shown that rioters some of them have been given 2+ years sentencing. And one of them was for shouting and waving wildly in front of police. You what now? Literally that. And what we also saw in London and around the country on Wednesday was the media and the far left types, like organisations like Hope Not Hate, were planning not planning, but they were planning on a midweek riot, and they didn't get one, right? And then we had Nick Lowles, who admitted that a list that had been circulated was a hoax. He said, yes, the list was a hoax, but just look at the front pages of today's papers and anti-racist messages being transmitted to millions of homes this morning. Nick Lowles, or Lowles, however you pronounce his name, I think is as bad as some of the people who have been really, really problematic. I really do, because that guy wants us to live in such a draconian totalitarian state. It is positively scary. It is positively scary. So what we've really had is this week largely an incredible attack on working class people. That's what's happened. That is what's happened yet again. And it really just takes me back to 2011 and the riots. And, you know, the thing is, I think it's Martin Luther King who said that rioting is the voice of the unheard. And largely it is. Listen, don't get me wrong. I do not for a second support arson or people attacking libraries or attacking buildings where people are actually in the buildings. Anything like that is reprehensible and disgusting. But I think that what we're dealing with is a hugely political situation here, where apparently the cop leading much of it can just dash somebody's microphone out of their hand. Actually, what he showed us in that morning, I don't know if you've seen that clip, but what he showed us in that moment was, well, I wouldn't want to be on the receiving end of him if he had a truncheon in his hand, put it that way, because he showed tremendous aggression for the most senior cop in England. Tremendous. Before we bring in our first guest, I just want to look at this. And that was the woman accused of being the first to spread the fake rumours about the Southport killer, which was said to have sparked the nationwide riots, has been arrested. That is Bernie Spofforth, to my understanding. 55-year-old woman from Chester, arrested on suspicion of publishing written material, said to stir up racial hatred and false communication. To my understanding, last night she still remained in police custody. I don't know what the situation is this morning, haven't seen anything about it. And it would appear, as I say, that is fear porn poster Bernie Spofforth, whom I called out last week on this show. I've long considered her an irresponsible poster who feeds off the likes, subscribes and shares more than the actual truth. But here's the thing. I neither like or support her, but her arrest rather will have a chilling effect, and one has to wonder whether that is the intention of it. It is scary. The Times newspaper chose not to mention her name at last, I think it was last weekend, or was it? Anyway, I'm losing days here because there's so much happening. But basically, several of the newspapers which covered her told about her story, but chose not to name her. And I was like, why would that be then? Well, could it be that Bernie Spofforth has appeared on a number of occasions on Rupert Murdoch's platforms? And the fact is, they don't want to be associated with somebody like that now, even though they fully supported her before. Now, here's the thing, is I know that my first guest is going to completely disagree with me about this, which is great, because that's the whole point around here, not necessarily to completely disagree with me, but to be able to disagree with me and it be okay. Because it is about different voices. And I think one of the problems that we are dealing with is the fact that people are not allowed to be heard. There are selective voices that are allowed to be heard. And that really ultimately is going to help nobody. And that is not how we operate around here, frankly. No, it isn't. Gosh, he's looking very smart. Good morning to you, Hayden. How are you?
Good morning, Sonia. Can you hear me okay?
I can hear you beautifully, everybody. It's
Amazing.
Hayden Appleby. He's a journalist, host of the Utter Truth with Hayden Appleby podcast. And as we discussed before when he was on, he won't be bored. And you don't even need to apologize for it, Hayden. We love to
No.
hear that. So where do we even start, my friend? It is a mad time. I suspect that we need to be bracing ourselves for more madness over the weekend.
hmm
And what I was just talking about was the fact that we were being riled up midweek. We were being told it's going to be absolute chaos midweek. And what ended up happening was none of the sort, right? So Hayden, pick up wherever you want to, because I know you've been commenting extensively on what's taking place. So take it away.
Yeah, well, thank you for the opportunity to come on again, Sonia. Of course, your wonderful truth-seeking platform.
Thank you.
Um, I just wanted to begin really with what is at the root of all of this, which is the divide and conquer. It's at the root of everything we're hearing from Keir Starmer, from the government, from various MPs and media figures. What ultimately underlies it all is division, and they are adding fuel to the fire. They are fueling this division, and ultimately, like we'll probably touch on in a moment, they will likely enjoy, they will likely profit from, in some sense, this division. You know, it is this flawed perspective that we are currently embracing, that it is the common man against the common man, that it is white man versus black man, Christian versus Muslim. And that's what they want you to believe, because they don't want you to unite. They don't want us to unite as we the people, because obviously then we would be far too powerful for
Yes.
them and for their narrative. So I think at the root of all of it is division.
And I mean, for me personally, I'm so disappointed with some people because they appeared
Yeah.
to wake up splendidly through C19 and they now appear to have gone back to sleep again. And
Yeah.
I mean, it's absolutely right. That is exactly what's happening. It is a divide and conquer, no doubt about it. But some of the actual things that are happening are scary indeed. So let us
Mm.
start to break this down. So I went through some of the comments that you've been making on your social media, and I thought it was absolutely perfect for what we're talking about here. Let
Thank
us
you.
look, first of all, at Jessica Seymour, I believe you pronounce her name. She is a Casey, therefore a barrister. And
Mhm.
she is calling, quite literally, I'm going to read her tweet. She says, pass a short bill closing Twitter X down in the UK at Keir Starmer. So she tagged the Prime Minister in that. There is more than enough reason to do so. One of the richest men in the world is using his platform to cause serious harm, putting lives and communities at risk. And she also tagged the Home Secretary and another minister, Lisa Nandy. And you wrote, boom, like clockwork, cause the chaos, then use emergency measures to increase control in our lives. It's all a conspiracy until it becomes true. And I was horrified when I saw that because she's a barrister. Talk to
Mhm.
me about your thoughts.
Yeah, I mean, you would expect a barrister to kind of stand up for all these values of freedom and truth and liberty. And here she is calling for really communist style takedown of social media sites because, you know, controversial things are being said. Someone said something inflammatory, etc. When you go down that route, I mean, this is the reason we supposedly, or should at least, live in a free country and in a free world. Because when you go down the route of banning things you disagree with, Sonia, it's obviously, as you and I know, never going to remain for peace, never going to remain for the greater good, and it will always become dark. But isn't this kind of playing perfectly into the plan, playing perfectly into the things the conspiracy theorists were saying just a few years ago, that, you know, crises and moments like this are always going to be manipulated, whether it's by a barrister, whether it's by the prime minister, by the media. They will always be manipulated to almost, I mean, didn't we see it during COVID, to promote an agenda and, very much linked to the banning of X, we are also now seeing individuals arrested for the sharing of misinformation, for the sharing of inaccurate information. I mean, what's coming next? Are we going to be like sent to the gulag? It doesn't seem unrealistic anymore because we are living in a world where when there is a so-called emergency, our governments and our elected officials think that gives them the right to assert control, to increase control in our lives. And it's ultimately a perfect excuse to do so. I mean, what a tangled web we weave.
Indeed. And Elon Musk seems very much at the center of a great deal of this, which I also think is interesting. And so he's obviously been commenting. And one of the comments that he made was Keir Starmer had tweeted, "This is not a protest, it is pure violence. We will have a standing army of public duty officers." That just chilled me when I heard that. "We will ramp up criminal justice. We will apply criminal law online as well as offline. We will not tolerate attacks on mosques or on the Muslim communities." It's interesting, he's singling out only one community there. And Elon
Absolutely.
Musk responded to that saying, "Shouldn't you be concerned about attacks on all communities?" What did you think of that response?
Yeah, well, that was portrayed in the media as this far right, extremist, insanely inflammatory response. Elon Musk was being blamed for the creation of these riots.
Right.
I think that's a very fair response, like quite a measured response, considering how Keir Starmer doesn't seem to acknowledge, or maybe he does acknowledge, and it's deliberate, that coming out and blaming one group, far right this, far right that, while ignoring all the others, of course, that is only going to fuel further division and violence. And Elon Musk's comment is perfectly fair. We have seen arguably a two-tier justice system, two-tier policing, and this is not a complaint against those on the front line. It's more a complaint against those in positions of power.
Yeah.
We have seen, and it's tragic, it is this way, but the police force and the justice system less willing to enforce justice against certain people, certain communities. And so Elon Musk's comment, I think, resonated with a lot, especially in the British public. And perhaps that's why it's such a threat all of a sudden.
Well, it's interesting you say that because you also noted, and this is what I like. Here's the thing about truth is it doesn't necessarily follow through in terms of everything we believe automatically is right. So you're saying that about Elon on that one hand and being very fair. And then you also pointed out what he's also been tweeting over a period of time, which I found really interesting. And you discovered basically these series of tweets from October and November last year, where he is constantly tweeting, "Europe appears to be headed for civil war. Civil war is brewing. Europe is trending towards civil war. Europe is headed for civil war." This sounds like a foregone conclusion from one of the world's richest men, doesn't it?
Yeah, absolutely. And kind of linked to what you said there, Sonia, that's something I always try to encourage, the idea that you have to love or hate someone, that you
Right,
can't praise
right.
one thing and criticize another.
Exactly.
I will absolutely praise things I agree with Musk on and criticize others. And this civil war pushing that he's been doing, if I had that number of followers and if I had that amount of support that Elon Musk has, I would feel uncomfortable sharing something like that because the influence you could have on people's actions. And I don't want to play into the whole, when you put out a tweet,
Understood.
it's
Understood.
absolute violence. But
Yeah.
when you are brewing this idea of civil war week after week, he is therefore a cause of fear mongering. He is a cause of, oh, maybe I should be fighting the Muslims in my area because they represent this attacker, this murderer. No, Muslims in general do not represent one individual. Christians in general do not represent another.
Exactly.
We all know this deep down. But when we talk of civil war, civil war, civil war, you can think that, you can discuss that, but sharing it time and time again is obviously going to brew things. And again, it's like you said, I'm disappointed in people like him when they do that because they speak truth on so many other issues. They speak about, free speech and
Right.
D19 and everything in between. But then they do these things that they don't realize, at least in my opinion, are actually going to benefit the establishment, are actually going to benefit the deep state, and are dividing us once again. The only way we can fight their corruption is united.
It's very difficult with Elon Musk. He's one of those people where it's really difficult because I think he plays the game so brilliantly. But this week
Yeah.
we've had so many chilling messages sent out to us from Sir Mark Rowley, of course, about how he's going after people. Then the Director of Public Prosecutions of England and Wales issued a very scary warning about sharing material online. And I don't think it's a coincidence, of course, that Sir Keir Starmer, now the Prime Minister, was formerly the DPP. And it hasn't, I mean, it's literally taken him, what, a couple of weeks or so, maybe a month to turn us into something akin to North Korea. I mean, that's the scary thing. What are your thoughts about all of these messages and the impact it is likely to have on people's actions?
Yeah, well, look, linked to what you said with what this Labour government has caused and become, we were hearing from a lot of kind of pro-Labour activists, I think Alistair Campbell and things, like literally few days before the riots sparked, we were hearing, oh, isn't it wonderful, peace among people. There's been no trouble since Labour were elected. And we're like, hold on, just hold on a week. And now look at what's taking place. When you look at the list of dystopian things they have already put in place, they've already done, it's obvious. It's what we all warned of with the two-party system in Westminster. And yeah, I think that the messaging people put out when Keir Starmer comes out and he blames single groups, yes, there were probably far-right people, but in the same sense, I would say there were people who wouldn't even know what the term far-right means. They were just thugs using this as an excuse to cause
Right,
violence.
right.
But it's again this one narrative. They've learnt that the phrase far right can be manipulated and used perfectly to attack specific individuals, to attack communities, and even to attack the British public when certain individuals say things. And it's just crazy. They love this because if we see it as left versus right, we continue to play into their system. If we see it now, actually, which I'm trying to do more and more, as right versus wrong, then we start to criticize every one of them. If that means criticizing Elon Musk once, if that means criticizing our prime minister,
Right.
ultimately, you can't be blamed for your opinions. And if your opinions then have an impact, I think it's dystopian when we do that whole, oh, you said something last year and somebody else read that and that
Right,
inspired them.
right,
But
right.
when you are constantly being divisive, likely deliberately, I'm not saying you're solely to blame, but you're certainly not solving the issue.
Yeah, people have to take some responsibility for what they say online, just as the same way as they have to take responsibility of what they say and do in the street. We're adults and we
Hmm.
need to grow up, frankly. And I do think that some people do go into the realm of criminality online, and we already have laws for that. And what worries me, of course, is that we're going to be creating even more. And I think ultimately this is about a globalist agenda. It seems
Hmm.
absolutely apparent and clear to me, clear as day, but we don't help it when we play into their hands. But I think, I mean, my next guest is going to talk about Keir Starmer in depth and what kind of his role, really. But I don't think I literally think that he himself has provoked the situation as well. It's so easy for us to go after other people, man and women on the street. But what about the Prime Minister himself? He came out and he clearly made it absolutely clear to everybody that there's a favoritism involved in this.
Hmm. He certainly did. And we've known that for years with him. And it ultimately speaks to what's happening here. I mean, it's not just unethical what certain groups are doing on the streets, but it's also stupid because we're playing, or some of us are playing into their hands. We're playing into their hands in regard to excuses that they will then use to potentially implement digital ID. I mean, I think we discussed this last time. Tony Blair's already alluded to that.
Yeah.
Um, or any method of increasing control in our lives, banning X, we are playing into their hands. And this is, I completely agree, a globalist agenda. We knew it from the beginning. And Keir Starmer, I think, personally knows full well what he's doing here.
Oh, indeed, absolutely. When people say to me, those ministers are incompetent, I say, absolutely rubbish. They are not incompetent till they know exactly what they're doing. It's a
Yes.
plan. And so, Hayden, just moving forward, any idea about what may or may not be happening this weekend?
Well, I would almost try not to encourage as we were discussing with Elon Musk, the fear mongering itself, as the media's done, 100
It.
far right riots coming to your area. And it's almost like Soviet style propaganda, which everything's seeming to become. So I would say just try not to estimate too much. Obviously, stay safe, be careful, don't go to somewhere you genuinely believe there's going to be violence. But I also think we just need to keep our eyes on peace. It can be really
Mhm.
difficult, but we need to keep our eyes on hope, because the only way we beat the establishment and these people is through a peaceful revolution, never a violent one against people, because your local mosque leader, your local one-stop shop owner, these people are not your enemies.
Right.
The real enemy is in Westminster, in the WEF, in
Hallelujah to
Washington,
that.
D.C. And that's what we
Absolutely.
need to encourage. Um, Without plugging too much, I'm sure you know of Jackie
Plug.
Devoy, Sonia.
Who?
Jackie Devoy?
Oh, yes, of course, Jackie.
Hmm.
Yes.
Well, her and I might be starting a show soon, and I'm only linking to that, because there's going to be much more of a light-hearted element to it,
Nice.
criticizing these people, but without that element of fear. So
Got you.
that's what we need more
Like
of.
that. Love that idea. That is absolutely brilliant. Let us know when it's coming on. We'll give it a plug.
Yeah, we'll do. Thank
Everybody,
you.
this is Hayden Appleby, and he's a journalist and someone who cannot be bought. And we need more of that, frankly, in journalism, because that lot out there,
Mm,
they'll be bought by any bugger
mhm.
who comes along. Hayden, listen, take good care of yourself. Have a lovely weekend. Thank you for joining us this morning.
Thank you so much, Sonia.
Bless you. Wonderful to have
Enjoy.
him with us. Wonderful. How lovely and balanced is that? We need more balance, people. We do. I see that more than almost a quarter. No, actually, wrong. Almost £500,000 has now been raised on GoFundMe to rebuild after the riots. Um, and this is money that is going towards Spellow Lane Library Hub in Liverpool. Did you see how it was torched and all burnt out? How heartbreaking was that? Um, and also will go towards Bash Cafe in Belfast, which was also torched. That's received more than £27,000 in donations. And these are small independent businesses that were practically destroyed through COVID and now being destroyed by people who presumably should be on the side of small independent businesses. I don't know what's going on. It's all a bit mad, isn't it, frankly? And by the way, everybody, there's that year again, talking about Elon Musk. Elon Musk actually made a post saying in 2030 for making a Facebook comment that the UK government didn't like. And it's a picture of the Family Guy waiting to be electrocuted. And Elon Musk wrote, the irony is that Facebook doesn't even exist in 2030. Well, I reckon if anybody knows about that, it's Elon Musk. By the way, I like gadgets. Do you like gadgets? My daughter loves gadgets. This is my favorite new gadget. Before I just bring in my next guest, I've got to show you this. This is fabulous. Oh, wait. Oh, yes, look. It's a fan that attaches to my telephone. How fabulous is that? The only problem is it whirs so fast you have to be really, really careful when taking it out. Ow, because it catches your fingers. I'm not sure that that is a solution to anything, but I enjoy those sort of things because I'm just a child at heart, frankly. Talk to me, people. How are you doing out there? How are you doing? I left Facebook years ago and I don't regret it, says Sylvia. I left, I reckon, about 10 years ago now. Humphrey is recommending that everybody watch Jackie Devoy, A Good Death. Great guest, Sonia, says Shalini. They'll have to stop blocking the sun then. Mary asked, do you really believe that Charles gives a damn about his so-called subjects? We are poo on his shoes. He's king of the WEF. Who suggested that Charles cared? God, not me. Absolutely not. Do you like that? Yes, my newest fan. Do you like that? I love that. I just love gadgets. I don't know why. I just do. Um, Randy says that gadget gives me hope for humanity. Healing the silence is like a helicopter. Is that a fanny? Says owner. King Charles should be out there talking to the people, don't you think? Michelle, I could not agree more. Absolutely, he should be out there. And Rowie Fit says, seems like a lot of fuss to be over within a few days. I hope so. Carol can't see the chat for some reason. B said, imagine if Elon got outed as controlled opposition. Folks on X would be apoplectic. And by the way, can I just say thank you to Big Trev and Toby the dog for my first birthday present. Oh yeah, it's going to be my birthday next week, mate. And thank you so much for that. After I was talking about Jack the Ripper on Monday, God love you, Trev. You are an absolute star. Bless your heart for that. Next week, just to let you know, we'll be doing Monday's show as usual, but next Friday's show will be a pre-record because I'm going to be away for a few days for my birthday. Yes, I am. But it's going to be a special birthday special. Yes, it is. And I'm going to be joined by a number of people, including the lovely Matt Letitia and also the lovely Only Cans, who will be coming on to talk about their Madeleine McCann series. No, Cavan, that is not the only fan I have. I have plenty of fans all around the house. I don't have fans. I have supporters. That's an altogether better description, don't you think? Let me welcome in my next guest. This is somebody who's not afraid of a little controversy. And thank goodness for that, frankly, because we need people who are prepared to speak up. And very few people are. Oh, look, that's very interesting. Look at that. There he is. Hello, Daz.
How you doing? You all right? Can you
Wonderful.
hear me okay?
Really great to have you with us. Everybody, Darren Nesbit from the Light newspaper. I just said, here's someone who's not afraid of a little controversy. It was funny earlier because I often misspell your name, right? Just because I can't remember whether it's one T or two T's. So I was looking online earlier, and one of the first things I came across, of course, was the infamous clip with you and Mariana Spring. And I think before we get into anything, for those who don't know, you should remind people about Mariana Spring, because of course, Mariana Spring is Miss Disinformation, and she is the BBC's reporter on this issue. She was absolutely behind the targeting of Richard D. Hoare, and she interviewed you, but you and your cameraman, I believe, caught her on camera, and it was a beautiful gotcha. Just tell people about it before we crack on with what we're going to talk about.
Well, it's funny actually, because obviously with everything that's been going on the last couple of weeks, this carding game that they're playing now, according to Mariana Spring and Wikipedia and Google and all the rest of it, we should be out there. The Light paper is a hotbed of right-wing hateful activity and all the rest of it. And in all honesty, I've more problem with the right here than the left. But look, everybody knows that the beauty of what's happening now is lots of the general public are now feeling what we've been feeling for a long time, or what we've been calling, you call far right. Yeah, you're against the government, you're against the establishment, you're obviously far right. You've got anything against the agenda. So that hopefully is waking people up. The same with the COVID. They did all this stuff, and it just woke a whole load of people up, and it's still waking a lot of people up as well. So yeah, look,
she came after you though, didn't she? See, the thing is that anybody who was standing out in the community, she came after. So she came after Richard D. Hoare, and she came after you. They tried to come after me. Her boss contacted me for a private chat, which I refused to have a private chat. I said, we can make it public if you want. And but they came after you. They videoed you, and you were saying to her in that video, look, it really sounds like you're trying to, I'm paraphrasing you obviously, really sounds like you're trying to portray me as violent. She's like, oh no, it's going to be about loads of things. And then of course the article comes out, and in the headline it's about how the Light promotes violence, right? So you were absolutely bang on, but you caught her bang to rights, and that is the whole point, is that the Light paper has been targeted.
Yeah, I mein, credit to Steve the Stockport Rebels for doing that gotcha basically. It sounds like you're going to portray us as violence and far right and all the rest of it. And obviously we sat down for over 3 hours chatting about all sorts. Anybody that watches 20 minutes, half an hour, 40 minutes of that video can see that I'm not even at the Tommy Robinson level of anger or hate or anything else. I mean, we call our publication the Light paper.
Yeah, that's right. It's not the dark, is it?
If we wanted it to be, we're taking our country back and all the crap that they portray us with, we definitely have called it the boot or the stamp or the white.
Right.
whatever.
Or the Baphomet, whatever, but it wouldn't be the light, would it? But the thing is that you, as well as you've just said, you as well as I know that this kind of stuff has been on the cards for a long time. We know that it's a globalist agenda. But one of the things that you wanted to talk about, of course, was Sir Keir Starmer, our Prime Minister, only been in power for a month, and God, it's turning into a totalitarian state right before our very eyes. But one of the things you said, and I think it's a fair point, and that is, was there some criminality in terms of kind of race relations of what he's saying?
Yeah, 100%. You know, if we if we went on YouTube and started saying the things that he's saying, you know, say about Muslims, about the, you know, we all saw the gangs of Muslims. Well, also nobody should be out rioting. Let's just clear that up for a start. Nobody should be out rioting. We don't want violence.
Right.
We don't want a civil war. You know, Elon Musk, you know, moving people. They do these things. The clash of civilization, and of course, they have imported lots of third world men that are foreign to our culture, on purpose. Not to replace us, to cause this. Well, I mean, you know, maybe to replace us at the end of the day. It does feel very Bolshevik, and there's warnings from Yugoslavia, you know, the former Yugoslavia, the Balkans as well. How the process of, you know, getting all the people to hate each other, and you know, we know where that ended up. It ended up in a proper civil war, and with the Bolsheviks, obviously, you know, most people got murdered. The kulaks got murdered. The thing is, the people that run the place, the people that are doing these plays now, are the same people that, you know, organised the Bolshevik Revolution and the French Revolution and the American Revolution and any blue revolution, any major event that you've seen in the last 200-300 years is by, you know, the original Bavarian Illuminati, who are, you know, it's their modus operandi to shift, to change shape, to change the name, to disappear, to mold and infiltrate into all the other groups. So we'll say, oh, it's the Freemasons, or it's the Jesuits, or it's the blah blah blah. It's all of them. They're all infiltrated. You know, it's all controlled by the currency. You know, by the central banking system. It's hard, Sonia, because to be honest with you, we're seeing a lot of people mixing with a lot of people now who are kind of just either waking up, or this has riled them up out of their slumber. And you know, we want to kind of give them the information they really need to know. It's not Keir Starmer. It's not you know, the Labour government. It's not Parliament. You know, it's a small banking cabal which then owns all the international organisations like the United Nations and the, you know, the EU and all the supranational organisations. And policy comes from those people. You know, you have absolutely no say whatsoever. So we're living in a tyranny. Sir Keir Starmer should be prosecuted under the Race Relations Act. Somebody out there, you don't even have to be a law. I think anybody can make a complaint, but anybody that's actually been affected directly, so a shopkeeper who's had his shop smashed up or what have you, and by calling all of the violence on the native side, on the indigenous side, and also saying, you know, even ordinary people, as we know, they did it with us with the freedom marches. In 2020, 21, 22, they called everybody far right. There was 1 million people out there. My God, if that was really the far right, you know, why isn't the civil war? Why haven't they stormed?
Right.
Right. Ordinary people. The court, again, it's communist tactics or Marxist or Bolshevist tactics or globalist tactics. It's just to smear and smear and smear, and obviously normally smear people with the same, you know, with what they're doing, you know, accuse the other side of exactly what they're doing, and that's rile people up, and it's calculated to rile people up, you know. They're all
exactly that. We are literally being driven into outrage on a constant basis, aren't we? And that is absolutely deliberate, obviously, because people don't think clearly when they're outraged. Okay, so right there. But here's the thing, Darren, is I think a lot of the things that we've been subject to this week is all about a chilling effect. So I was listening to Sir Mark Rowley, obviously the most senior cop in England and Wales. And I don't know if you saw him with his little strop hitting the microphone out of somebody's hand when he was asked about two-tier policing. But he said something very chilling. And that was, he said he has a problem with people even questioning the issue of two-tier policing because officers have to deal with that out on the street. So are we now going to be criminalized for even our opinions?
Yeah, well, ultimately, that's exactly what they want. First, it'll be, you know, social media censorship, etc., and then it will be, you know, so you know, they'll manipulate by social credit score and CBDC. your program we want. That's exactly what they want. It's exactly where they're going. These people are not pro anything. They're pro themselves. They're pro total world control, and they will divide and divide and divide and divide on any fracture line they can. There was a load of counter protests the other night. Counter protests to no protest at all.
I know, but that was all manipulated.
100%.
Right. So then what you ended up with was all these front pages saying that the anti-racists had outwitted the far right, when in fact there was never going to be those protests anyway. And I do object to it, because I actually traditionally come from the left. I come from a working class family. I voted Labour all my life until I woke up. But the point is I've never voted Conservative in my entire life. And so the idea that I'm somehow far right because I was able to see the lies, well, for many, many decades now, frankly. And sometimes it gets quite frustrating, because some people who are just waking up again, I hate that expression, but some people who are just, they rush in and they almost want to say too much. And I do wonder sometimes whether they are placed there to create the problems for the rest of us. What are your thoughts about infiltration?
Well, sometimes, but I've been awake for 11 years or something like 2013. I woke up, and when I first woke up, I was like, "Whoa, oh my word!" You know what I mean? So if I'd have been, obviously I wasn't, nobody. But if I'd have had a channel at that time or what have I would have put out all kinds of crazy nonsense videos, which would obviously have to go back. Go, yeah, there aren't any aliens actually. The world's enclosed, or what? You know what I mean? As you find new information. I've been trying, and you've got. Have you got Ashley on this morning? That's going to be interesting.
Well, the thing, obviously, that video has gone beyond viral. One clip alone of it is 2 million hits. It's huge. He was on our show on Monday, and he's coming back on to answer it. And one of the first things I said to him yesterday was, "You've got to admit it looks bad."
Yeah,
it looks bad. So that's a particular example, isn't it? But we see lots of those examples. Do you think also, though, not necessarily regarding Ash, but in general, do you think that we've all become so scared and so paranoid? And again, that is another aspect of them manipulating us to distrust each other.
Well, to a certain extent, yeah. It'll be very interesting to hear what Ash has to say. I've only met him once. I met him at our Stand in the Light festival. He played a great set. There are people out there going, "Oh, obviously I've been in the freedom movement with him since COVID, etc., etc." It's hard sometimes, people you get to like and trust people and what have you, but you've got to be open-minded as well.
Yep.
Now, for me, my only modus operandi is speaking the truth, is talking the truth, trying to focus it as well. As you rightly pointed out, Sonia. So I try not to get caught up with the thing of the moment, because whatever the thing of the moment is normally part of an agenda. So sit back, see how it plays, see where they're going with it. We know where they're going. I'll give David Icke his due. He said, if you know the destination, you can understand that every part of the journey, which is very true.
Right.
So I'll basically just get on with what I get on with. Obviously I do a light paper, we do the Daz Band, we do the Standing Light Festival, blah blah blah. Or just in social media interactions or what have you. I keep my eyes on the digital tyranny, digital slavery for the next generation. We'll be well out of it. So that's another thing to remember as well. They're not going to close the gate tomorrow. No. Yeah, it's not. Oh my God, panic stations. We need to get out and
it's by stealth.
They can't do it any other way. You know what I mean? They've already taken 250 years, so they're going to take another 20 years or however long, 5, 10, 15, 20, obviously stage. But right now we're free range slaves. We're debt slaves. We're slaves because of the currency that everybody uses, but we're free range just about. They're closing it down. So number one for me is never panic about what's going on. Don't rush into things. Certainly don't make any rash decisions to go join controlled protests that aren't going to achieve anything. And I was talking to my very, very good friend, the guitarist in our band last night, and it kind of occurred to me, because what me and you and what a lot of people who are really trying to help and sort it out do, we do get frustrated, and you go, okay, how can we actually win now? We can't defeat them. How can we win? And it occurred to me, although I'm on tax rebellion at the moment, so if you can, it's not legal. There's no lawful way to stop paying your taxes. They will try and come after you and all the rest of it. But tax rebellion is certainly a peaceful, it's a non-violent way of protesting and what have you. But again, the point is, every solution will take time. There's no overnight solution. There's no silver bullet. There's no magic.
It's taken us this long to get here.
Yeah, it's on an individual basis. So it's like, okay, well, I need to kind of have my own chickens and a bit of food, and I need to be out the city, or I need to change my job. I need to whatever those things are, do them, because it's taken me 10 years. I'm not quite fully independent. Obviously, nobody is. But if shit goes down now, I can, we can get a bit of food together, and
Right.
we've got some blackberries growing, what have you. But
there's plenty.
Everybody should do that on an individual basis. You know what I mean? And have a year plan.
So, Darren, what you're saying, though, is the importance of just being prepared anyway. We should always be prepared, have a little something prepped, right?
Big time. You never know what's coming. There could be some natural disaster, although in Britain it's one of the most temperate climates in the world, which is why, Julius Caesar wanted to conquer it, and so does everybody else. Other than that, like I say, it's on an individual basis. So if you want to defeat the New World Order, they want you. Look at where they want you. They want you, completely digitized. They want you poor, obviously dependent on government. They want you isolated. They want you divided. They want you fearful, and they want you dependent on the corporate system as well. So that's just a handful of things. Take those, turn them around. They have no control over you. If they say we're stopping your benefits, that's not going to affect me because I'm not on benefits. If they say, you must, whatever it is, I have so little interaction with the government. It's not true, and long may it continue. What I think people have got to imagine, or the mindset, a better mindset to have, is we don't obviously live in a democracy. Everybody knows that now. But think about Soviet Russia, like in the Stalin period, or Mao's China. They weren't out protesting against the Soviet government's policies. They were samizdating. They were underground. They were doing their network and all the rest of it. There was black market, and they do their thing without telling the bloody guy, we've got to do the same. The police are not on our side. An individual out of his uniform in the pub, agree and chat. Yeah, that's different. But the police are not on our side. The politicians are not on our side. A lot of the alternative big names and media names are obviously not on our side. Even the smaller names don't seem to be on our side. No, I mean, without being, it's a compromise. Don't be completely paranoid, but then again, don't trust anybody apart from people that you can trust.
Right, absolutely. And also be open-minded. I'm seeing one of the comments on here, and I have to say, Rowie, I think this is exactly the problem with our world. So one of the comments from Rowie is, Ash is coming on the show. No wonder Sonia is on the Freemason watch or whatever. And it's like, Rowie, you and I have had set twos before. This is a ridiculous comment. I mean, apart from anything else, I am not a Freemason, right? I'm not a Freemason, but I'm also a journalist, and I believe in the right to reply. And this man has had a viral video after he was on the show on Monday. What kind of person would I be if I didn't allow him, or not even just allow him, but to be able to ask him questions as well? So, Rowie, you've been watching me long enough now to know that I'm that kind of person. And if you believe some list put together by somebody who sits in their mum's basement and spends half their day with one hand on the computer and the other with their hand down their pants, then you've got a problem, mate. Right, because I'm much more transparent than that. Obviously, I'm much more transparent. But Darren, that is what we're dealing with, though. And I do understand what he's saying, because it is so easy for us to become suspicious. But that in itself surely is part of the manipulation for us to turn on each other.
It is, absolutely. But at the same time, again, anybody that's been around for longer than a couple of years, has seen how protests or movements or what have you are co-opted, they're nullified, they're misdirected, they're divided and ruled, etc., etc. But again, this is I'm not part of any group or organisation, and nobody's part of the light paper or what have you. We work together with a lot of people to produce the paper every month. I work, we'll collaborate with whoever. You know what I mean? Chat to you, or, what I mean, all day long, no problem at all. So it's a Groucho Marx thing. I'd never join any club that'd have me as a member. I am the black sheep of the black sheep of the black
Everybody
sheep.
is hearing the beast from your microphone or whatever. It sounds like a beast. When you hear it back, it literally sounds demonic, Darren. I don't know.
Oh,
you hear it.
Sorry, it's probably just the internet.
Yes, probably MI5, MI6 watching us. Listen, I greatly appreciate you joining us this morning, bringing some levity to the situation. We always need it. And everybody, please check out the Light newspaper. It's one of our few independent newspapers out there, for goodness sake. Darren, I will put a link in the description to it. Take good care of yourself. Lovely to talk to you, everybody. Darren,
thanks, Sonia. Thank you so much.
Lovely to see
all
you.
the best. Take care, everybody.
Take care. And, you know, the thing is, right, obviously we're all paranoid about each other. I think somebody last night tweeted about all of my guests coming on and said it's a shill fest. And I very nearly kind of tweeted saying, oh, how exciting. I'm going to watch it. Oh, dear. No, actually, I'm going to be presenting it. And it is so easy to call people shills, especially when you're anonymous. Like, especially when you're anonymous. So these are issues that need to be tackled, right? Is that there's a whole load of people running around online and we have no damn clue who they are because they're hiding their identity. I'm not hiding my identity. You literally can do a brief search and find out so much about me, from, you know, my home to who I've dated, to how much I've earned, to my children, to my pets, to illnesses I've had, because I'm transparent. So I'm getting more and more reluctant to even interact with people on X when they are abusive and when they're anonymous. Well, I won't interact with them anyway. I simply won't, because it's so easy to be abusive when you're anonymous. But you wouldn't say that to my face in the street, would you, mate? Because I might only be 5'4", but I will take you down. Yes, I will. Right. On that note, let's bring in our next guest, eh? Let's add a little bit of spirituality to the mix. I think we need some spirituality at the moment. I think that is something that we are very seriously lacking in our world. And it concerns me that we're being encouraged to really depart from our true natural spiritual self. And here's AJ Roberts to bring us back to our true natural and spiritual self. Good morning, AJ. How are you?
Good morning, Sonia. How are you? Good
Well,
to see you again.
It's absolutely lovely to have you with us. Obviously, absolute mad times we're currently living through. If anybody doesn't know, AJ has a brilliant podcast series. I'm sure many of you have watched it. You are a British Army veteran. You're an entrepreneur. You're a coach. You're a speaker. And you are, of course, a podcast host. Here's the thing, is that I was just saying just before you came on that what we're experiencing is horrible. We don't know who to trust. We're turning on each other. We're becoming increasingly paranoid. We're becoming disassociated and detached from our very core. From at the end of every show, I always do something to try and bring it back to the person, who they are and what they're about. But I am delighted you've joined us because you have extensively covered the subject of spiritual warfare. Are we in a spiritual war?
Yeah, predominantly before anything else. It's bigger than any type of warfare. You know, we are in fact in like a multifaceted war, and everyone's experiencing it on a day-to-day level. You know, in the physical, mentally, psychologically, financially, and spiritually. You know, so it's a very like a very kinetic war that people don't always see, as we well know. So, you know, we us the people, no matter what race, religion, gender you are, have all been on the same side at war with the very people that have waged war on we the people. And everything that we've experienced in the last 4 years, all the psyops have been purposely placed by the dark agenda, not just the you know, the whole scandemic side of stuff, but that everything else has been thrown in. So, you know, people can only cast their minds back to the George Floyd psyop, you know, at the start, like when lockdowns were first a thing. So that was thrown in, obviously, to create that race divide between people while everyone was still trying to work out what was going on with COVID and everything else like that. You know, and it's just been systematically psyop after psyop after psyop, and including obviously the you know, the government's new medicine and the push for that. So and that's where it all boils down to in terms of the spiritual warfare. So the whole agenda. With the shots, it wasn't just like, obviously they needed.
Careful, we're on YouTube. You've got to be very careful with their medical misinformation. They'll boot us off quicker than we can breathe. Avoid that one. Everybody knows what it's like on YouTube. And the only reason, well, one of the reasons I stream on here is obviously the reach is so huge. But like everywhere else, we're subject to censorship, aren't we? And the thing is, it's so painful, isn't it? Because you're
Yeah.
a spiritual man. I met you, and you have a certain vibration about you, which is very strong, and you are very kind of self-possessed. You almost, I mean, you seem to understand yourself brilliantly, and that enables you to also understand other people. Where does that come from?
Experience. And I say it to people all the time, you don't need to have been in the military to be a soldier. We're all a soldier. We're a soldier first. So we're all like warriors, right? Every single one of us from birth. And I always show people that we're this amazing like pillar of light that's perfectly created from birth. It's just that we have multiple programs and viruses installed into us, like each and every one of us in different ways. So I've got like military programming, like being the eldest, I've gone through loads of my whole life. I've been like captain of sports teams, leader, oldest of 4 boys. They've all been military, all this kind of stuff. And then obviously being in the military, working at Porton Down, being a PTI within the military, running my own gym in Australia. So all the coaching, all of that is basically my basic training for now and where we're going. Just like you've been brilliantly, doing all the work that you've been doing and bringing all everything to the surface, like repetitively, consistently, stuff like that, because everything you've been through and all those hardships, you had to go through, like, almost feel like you've been hit by a train, right? Because you haven't, the way you've been vindicated, like everything. And every single person watching this, like, have been through their trials and tribulations for now. All the people that have come into your lives, been and gone, they've all been there to have those lessons for you. When everyone stood up against me, especially ex-colleagues in the military, it wasn't nice. I had a WhatsApp group made about me with like 100 people in it that I served with, and it was all like an anti-AJ group, right? But like, I had to experience. It's not nice, but I had to experience that to keep me going, to fuel my fire. Do you know what I mean? And we've all had to go through that. So that's where it comes from. And then obviously now I'm very much focusing on really raising that masculine energy, because the men within our societies and Western world have been completely hammered. That then's obviously hammered the women and caused that separation. So men have just been purposely socially engineered into being hooked on football, accumulators, beer and cocaine at the weekends, away from being the protector male. Yeah, all of it. So I'm working hard at the minute with a number of veterans. Actually, we're really trying to bring home this like masculine energy and open the heart space of the men, because when you open the heart of the men, that's what's happened. They've tried using pharmaceuticals. Look how many men have gone bald. Look how many men now are overweight. Look how many men are walking around just with a can of Monster in one hand and a vape in the other, because they're so depressed from being on the debt cycle, right? Thinking that they're only good enough to get up and go to work every day, get on the tools to feed the kids. Again, that's what's happened. And so that we need to ignite this spiritual warrior aspect within the men. And how many women watching this right now, including yourself, are crying out for a man to share his vulnerabilities, to ignite that spiritual aspect of himself, so he knows who the F he is. Yeah. And that's been this whole thing, is to dumb down and hammer the male, so they never know truly who they are, so they don't stand up and protect. We were all there 2020, like observing these protests. It was like 80% female.
Yeah.
And it's only now that you can really see that masculine energy is like really shot up, which is great. We just need to channel that. And so many men now are going into healing, and they're healing themselves from all their wounds and all their traumas and stuff like that, and then they're going into healing others, like myself, our events and stuff. So it's that the spiritual war has literally forced us all and ignited us all. It's part of this grand awakening across the whole world, to start really stepping into who we are, stepping into our power, and stepping into being sovereign, because that is the ultimate goal.
Now, all of that sounds fabulous, right? And I love it. I come from a spiritual background, so all of that is like second nature to me, and I wouldn't consider it any other way. But for some people, just kind of entering that can all sound a bit woo-woo, right?
Yeah.
I don't need to tell you that. How do we make it real for people in order for them to be able to, because everything you've just said is absolutely right. It is happening. We know that. We've seen the dumbing down of society, the separation of men and women, how men have been demasculinized, or whatever the word is, but you know what I mean. And women have been kind of taught to hugely disrespect man, and vice versa, because obviously the attacks on women from men is awful as well. So how do we even start to deal with that? Because even now, when there are people like you and I who are awake, for want of a better description, but even ourselves, we can get dragged into the darkness because you know that expression, right? And that is, if you stare too long in the abyss, it starts to stare back at you. Well, we are by dint of what you and I are doing, we're staring at a lot of darkness. How do you remain in the light all the time?
We've got to experience duality and see that for what it is. So if you can just surrender to the fact that like we have to experience duality throughout our whole life, so that we never understand what is dark and what is light. So at the moment, everything's being exposed to the surface, isn't it? Like everything from, you know, every single black hat operation, which is literally like everything from the riots on the streets, which is literally just lots of hotel trained immigrants acting. You know, I've literally been sharing all the fake scenes they've been making and stuff like that. So everything from that to Israel to, you know, every negative dark frequency you can imagine is all currently in one pot right now, right? And it's boiling like this.
Right.
And at the same time, people are shedding all these emotions, that they're going through a spiritual awakening because the whole planet's ascending, we're ascending. So just if you can just understand the fact that like you need to experience the dark to understand what the light truly is and your place in it. That's why we're all experiencing what we're experiencing in our own versions of our own reality at the same time. So this is where the collective consciousness is so important, and people are now starting to understand that. So cast your mind back to 2020, our true powers as a collective were used against us. So they created so much fear and panic within the collective consciousness that the collective then project that fear, project that reality, you know, art of warfare. Know thy enemy better than they know themselves. That they've always known us better than we know ourselves. But now we're all coming online. So the ley lines in the country are like magnifying big time. That's why you see so many crop circles all around the UK, because of the crystal quartz in the land. They've wanted us in the UK kept off this land and like disconnected from it because it's one of the most powerful lands in the world. This is why they turned the UK in pretty much a human farm for centuries. This goes way back longer than our lifetimes, right? This is why there's so many wind farms around the country, because the wind farms power frequency, negative frequency onto the land. They negatively charge the waters with all the lattices underneath. So they're distorting the waters, poisoning the waters. And this is what, again, like you've got all these port towns on like the East Coast, for example. They're so dumbed down and run down and stuff like that.
We're angry.
Exactly. And people don't see it because the frequency is keeping them within this small little world.
Yeah.
So everyone can see it now, right? Everyone can see all these towns, high streets, everything. They're all run down. They're all like not been looked after. They're all full of vape shops and Turkish barbers and nail bars and coffee shops, blah, blah, blah.
I mean, this is all true. That is literally a snapshot of a high street these days.
But it's everywhere. It's like it's just a template, and it's created on purpose. So if you're seeing that, you're well done. That means your awareness and your consciousness is that high that you're seeing the 3D projection that the dark want everybody to live in. And you're seeing all these people living in this projection, right? And they don't know it. They're the ones walking around, you know, queuing up outside the chemist, sitting in front of the news every night. Then they're everywhere, right? Because they have to be. Otherwise, none of this BS actually can ever exist. So that's what. So if you're seeing that right now, well done. You're literally on the right path. You know, your universe is showing you the 3D projection and the life and the small world that they want everyone living in, which I always show people as like a box. Everyone walks around with this a program box on their head, like a TV, right?
Right.
And each corner is a controlling construct. So you've got government, you've got military, you've got law, you've got media, you've got education, you've got medical systems. You see what I mean? And each one of those systems all work in unison together, don't they? To keep you in that box.
Yeah.
That's where the term think outside the box comes from, because we need to break free from those illusions in that box and see them for what it is. And that's what's happening right now. Everyone's seeing the illusions for what they are. And this is why it's so important that we raise the vibration of everybody, men, women, children, black, white, Muslim, you know, gay, lesbian, whatever.
That's right. Just keep raising it up. Keep raising it up. So here's the thing. I'm looking at some of the comments, right? And LB said it's a lonely path at the moment. And that touches my heart, because I think a lot of people feel very isolated and alone, right? How do you deal with that?
Well, just for the people who are commenting and feel like that, and I'm sure that they've probably commented that on behalf of a lot of people as well, because, you know, this is why we do our events around the country, where it's all about bringing community together. This is why we've got an amazing online community we started a couple of years ago, and it's been growing and growing and growing. So people in there are connecting with each other all around the country. Our events are bringing people together all around the country. They're getting like amazing healing experiences. You know, they're connecting with their soul family. It's you know, we're really blessed to do what we do. But like, it's a countrywide, worldwide. It's all about bringing the communities back together. So don't feel like you're isolated. There's millions of people out there just like you. There's millions of people out there that are just waking up to the fact that 2020, 2021 wasn't what we thought it was, and maybe regretting decisions, this, that, and the other. Don't worry, you're going to be totally fine. There's nothing wrong with you. You just need to surround yourself with all these amazing people out there that are going through these awakening processes as well, because the new medicine, ladies and gents, was just part of your awakening. You haven't done anything wrong. Okay, it's just it was needed in your story, right, to wake you up to the illusions. That's literally it. Okay, you're not going to keel over and die. Like, please don't buy into all the fear porn that's being banned around now because it's safe to do so.
Right, that has to impact us negatively, doesn't it? Well,
Yes,
a constant deluge of us being told that we're sort of all in trouble, we're going to be at war, there's going to be riots. When you have this on a constant basis, it has to be really harmful for us, for our psyche, doesn't it? And we
That's
need
the whole
to
point.
protect ourselves against that, don't we, though?
Yes, yeah, but you only simply need to just sit back and just be better every day at like discerning what information you feel is BS to you, doesn't resonate to you, and just doesn't sit right with your perspective. And then like the better you get at that's you like owning your reality, because we create our own reality. So we're not letting anybody dictate our reality for us, which is the whole point of the media and TV, etc. So the better you get at that, the better you're protecting yourself, because the higher vibe you are every day, your universe literally reciprocates that. So if you live in fear, that you feel isolated, you live in fear all the time, you're just sharing every link going on Telegram and all this kind of stuff, all that stuff, fear sits in you, and then you just project it on social media, and then more people project it, and then more people project it, and more people project it. That's the collective consciousness working, right? So just sit. And the best thing anybody can do right now is stop doing everything externally, stop looking for the answers externally, okay? Because you have every single answer within you. All the keys and all the codes and all the histories that the entire universe are within you. So you need to just turn the lens inwards. That's literally it, right?
Oh, yeah.
You talk about how do people connect to finding out that stuff. Look at me. I'm not like, I'm just a geezer, right? I just got a t-shirt on, tattoos, like ex-military. I'm not sat here with a cloak and a crystal strapped to my forehead.
No,
saying,
exactly.
But I meditate every single day, and it's where all the answers are coming from.
Right. Because you understand the answers are already within you. I've got to read you some of these comments. Absolutely brilliant. Loopy EMT says, join AJ's community. It's life-changing if you are lonely, beautiful people on it. Anne-Marie said, and the truth will set you free. The older sibling resonates. I'm the oldest of 5 girls, and they're just waking up. It's beautiful.
Amazing.
Lucy is on her spiritual journey. And Ian says, what we've been dealing with is self-consumed small consciousness. Rowie says, despite all our rage, we are still just rats in a cage. And I think that's an interesting one, because that also resonates with a comment that somebody else said. And that is, David said, sorry, but we ain't meditating our way out of this one. And that does seem like a fair point, doesn't it, though, AJ?
Oh, no, absolutely. Although I always stress like meditation is the best medication. So it's not a case of meditating our way out of it and all sitting on the edge of a cliff together going, and creating some big vibration. But that is the key to like unlocking all of these things within you. So, and if every individual does that, just turns the lens inwards, that raises the consciousness within themselves, that raises the collective consciousness. So it's just, in essence, it's an ancient tool that has been there this entire time to help us raise our consciousness and discover who we are. So it's not going to fix everything. It's just a tool to enable you to constantly, daily take everything to the next level. And then your universe and your life and everything you experience will reciprocate that.
Shug said, it is a prison planet once you take an overview. AJ was right. The powers that be, those working for the powers that be, are not doing their jobs properly, says Kenneth. I agree with you. They're also talking about rhesus negative. I'm a rhesus negative. I'm an A rhesus negative. I'm sure many of you won't be surprised to hear that, given what we've been told about rhesus negatives. But I think generally most people, for the most part, they realize we're being played, AJ, and they want something more. People want something more. We were taught from a very early age, schooling immediately detached us, didn't it? It taught us that we should all be the same, that we should conform and comply. And that was the way forward. That was how we were going to get on in the world. But actually, what I've discovered, AJ, is the way we get on in the world is by being our true, authentic self, even when we make mistakes, right? I think one of the reasons that I've continued to be able to do my work is people know I'm real. I'm like as real as it gets, mate. And that includes all the mistakes I make on camera, you know, any of those things. And I think authenticity is the way forward. What are your thoughts on that?
Yeah, no, I totally agree. And one thing I've learned over like being in the military and, you know, working in corporate situations and then being, you know, working for myself, and I'm sure that you'll agree and everybody else will, is that like whenever you're in any of those systems, like you're never your authentic self because you're playing a role. And so you're always like a lot of the time acting up. Like, so in the military, it's like you're always trying to get to the next level, next level, next level, because because you're pension trapped and so you're never actually your authentic self. And like across all of these platforms, whether it's like within the media, the corporate, like military, police, whatever, you're always trying to strive to get up that pyramid. And those pyramids are literally systems are created on purpose because it's all about control. So you're never ever your authentic self. You're just playing a role. You know, think about it, like what you like at work. Oh, hey boss, anything to do? And then you get in the car and then you go home and you play a role of being mum or dad. And it's like, so in essence, we're all like in this experience, like constantly playing different roles all the time. It's cutting back from playing roles and just centering yourself and being your authentic self. That's how you magnetize people, and that's how people around you wake up. If we're always acting out of our authentic self around people, you're not shining your light big, and that's not what harmonizes people. And that's what disallows people from accepting the information. So 2020, 2021, right, we're all shaking everyone like, well, can't you see what we can see? And we all get stressed out. It's because we're not raising their vibration. Our vibration is not high. So, you know what I mean? So then you're in very high vibe, energetic fields, and then people can just accept the information. That's why now people are understanding all this information. You know, suddenly it's like this grenade's gone off over the last few weeks, isn't it? People are suddenly a lot more receptive. They're speaking their own truths themselves. You know, like since yesterday, I've like been absolutely barraged with people either attacking me from stuff from the past, but I've just allowed it to happen because it's like they're purging their truth. Do you see what I mean? And that's what's happening now. People are going, right? And we're seeing all the media, like literally looks like it's under control because it's just pure truth coming out, isn't it? Everywhere.
Yes, it is. And it is absolutely. And they can do everything they can to try and stop it or change it or distort it or spin it. But the fact is the truth is coming whether they like it or not. I think Fluffy has the hots for you, AJ, on the I'm judging by the comments that are being made here. More power to your elbow, Fluffy. And this is lovely. What was that? Oh, that was a comment I was just going to read. I've missed it now. I mean, there's loads of lovely comments. You should go back and read them, AJ. They're absolutely brilliant.
Thank you very much.
Winner said, I am authentic, but I'm not in work, etc. That takes me out of myself like robots that work for corporations. Well, of course, because as AJ is saying, it's all designed to do that. I mean, it is. And the thing is that obviously we have to work. We have to earn money. But there are ways, I believe, not to be on that 9-to-5 hamster wheel, AJ. And I think that's important that we do everything we can to try and craft a lifestyle like that. And I understand not all of us are starting off from the same point. But trust me, people, I started off from poverty. So I still managed to craft a life for myself that worked for me and my family.
Beautiful.
And but again, we've all got different resources, but we need to tune in, don't we, much more to who we are. We need to drown out the noise. How do you drown out the noise, mate?
Well, I mean, the first thing that was mentioned earlier is I just sit in meditation. That always drowns out the noise for me. And obviously, I'm very aware of my role in this life. So a lot of my meditations are kind of geared around that, like and working with my own healing energies and all this kind of stuff. But in terms of drowning out the noise, it's like we're surrounded by these distractions on purpose. To literally take you away from yourself all the time. This is why you can go down any street, like look at any street when the schools are leaving, and like you won't see many kids that haven't got a phone in their hand and they're not going. Have you seen Andrew Tate's new car? Have you seen Ronaldo's new whatever? Have you seen this person? Have you seen this? Have you seen this? Everything's designed to keep you external, and none of these kids are saying to each other, "Do you know what? When I leave school, I want to build a real big business that helps people."
Right.
Kids aren't talking about their passions and everything because they're too busy following false idols. So that in itself is just one bit of noise. Then you've got the TV, social media, everything else like that. It's all designed to distort the mind and keep you in that box I mentioned. So just get outside the box, like get outside in nature. Like nature is your best friend. Like we are nature, right? There's a reason why our thumbprints are the same shapes as trees prints, right? We
Oh,
are, we are Earth. The Earth
that's
is
a good
you.
point. That is a good
Yeah.
point. Yeah, the circle. Yeah, you're absolutely right. That's a very
So
good point. I like that. I like
yeah,
that.
and
And
we're supposed to be connected like trees, right? So every tree and every plant under the sea or on the land on this entire planet is connected, like we are supposed to be. Okay, it resembles us. I call it the wood wide web, right? And how they're all connected. But like we're supposed to be the same, right? And that's why we're supposed to be deeply connected to the earth. Earth is an anagram of heart, and we experience our whole life and reality through the heart. Again, this is why they want to keep us disconnected from being outdoors, disconnected from the heart, all this kind of stuff, because it's all connected like we should be. So in terms of drowning out the noise, sit in silence, turn the lens inwards, but also connect with as many people as possible now who are on a similar path of you. I can't stress that enough, because as soon as you do, watch your vibration just
that's
skyrocket.
right. It's liberating. I love it when I go out to talk and there's a room full of people and the entire vibration is just as one. Thank you so much for joining us this morning. Spirit High says AJ's statement is what I live by. I feel it works for me. And hallelujah to that. Do what works for you. AJ, thank you so much for joining us this morning and bringing some spiritual wisdom with you. God bless you. We'll put a link to AJ's podcast and his work in the description. This, everybody, is AJ.
Thanks for having me.
Take good care. Thanks for joining us. Lovely to have
Much
you.
love, guys.
Absolutely lovely to have you. And by the way, guys, I did see a couple of your comments. God, I tell you what, you lot are divils, right? You lot are absolutely divils, right? I'm going to bring in Ash. He's with us, right? This is going to be interesting because we're already starting off from a place where we have people, I mean, even my own guests are uncertain. Good morning, Ashley Bennett.
Good morning. How are we, Sonia?
Well, I'm great, Ash. Absolutely great. I don't need to tell you that since I announced you were coming on, I've had quite a mixed reception. Some people are absolutely delighted that you're prepared to come on and talk about what's taken place since you were on with us on Monday. But let's give a little bit of background first of all. Ash, of course, was on with us on Monday, and he was on with us on Monday because Ash can often be found on the front line, which in some people's eyes now automatically makes him suspicious. But one of the reasons that I've always liked Ash since I was introduced to him by Sean Ward is Ash has always been prepared to put his neck out there, his head above the parapet, which is not what can be said for a lot of people. He's known as Dutty Monkey online. But after Ash appeared on Monday, and he came on Monday because he'd been all across mainstream media, images of him being far right. And he was like to me, last Friday, I'm not far right. And I'm like, come on the show and talk about it, because I don't like the demonization of every protester as being far right. So that was what Ash did on Monday. After that, it went viral, super viral. A video emerged. And unfortunately, everybody, I'm sorry to say this, I cannot play the video. I tried this morning. There's something wrong with my Zoom that was not allowing it, and it kept ejecting it. But I'm sure many of you have seen it. And I will also post the video that Ash has sent me as well. And I will post that underneath this stream on X, right? Because I want you to all to see that as well, because we're going to talk about all of it. So this video, Ash, sees in the middle of a huge protest, right? Protesters are on one side and the police are on another. And then we see you do something with your ear, and it 100% looks as if you and the cop are signaling to each other. And of course, not everybody, but the people who were sharing that video, the people who jumped on it, many of them anonymous, I should say, which already lacks credibility, because you can say whatever you want online when you're anonymous, because you take no accountability for it. But nonetheless, I said to you yesterday, Ash, because I asked you to come on and you were uncertain because you were like, this is just like taking over my life. I'm not sure about it. But last night you rang me, and one of the first things I said to you was, Ash, the video looks bad. And you said, I know it does. Talk to us, Ash. Talk to us, because I've had loads of messages, emails from people who loved what you were saying on Monday and then were plunged into this, oh my God, is he really working against us dichotomy?
Well, it just shows how easily manipulated people are, doesn't it? One video is enough to condemn a man for life now. It's just beyond the joke, if I'm honest. Sonia, I sit in the truth, and I can honestly say that I'm not bothered about what's happening right now, because I know that I've done nothing wrong. I went to that demo on the 31st because the night before we could see what was coming. There was major disruptions up in the area where this poor little 3 little girls were murdered, you know, and I could see what was coming in London that day. So I went down there that day to actually be the peacemaker, to try and make people who were going to be angry at that event to understand what exactly was coming the next day if they were going to kick off with the police outside 10 Downing Street. And lo and behold, what have we had since then? You know, the problem you got is there's just too many people pointing the finger now. This whole entire movement, if you want to call it that, is just paranoid. You know, people are just looking for excuses to point the finger now. Maybe if people, you know, men especially, had come out on the 31st and actually seen what was happening, then we wouldn't be in the position that we're in now, you know, Sonia. Too many just love to point the finger rather than actually get off their asses and go and do something.
And that is a
themselves.
fact. That is absolutely a fact. Still doesn't take away from the video. But here's something that I heard last night, which was really interesting. And that is Ramisi, I think I've pronounced his name correctly, another activist who became very well known during the COVID period. He actually recounted a story involving that day on Unity News Network. And it actually supports what you've said, because he said that you had contacted him and you wanted a megaphone so you could talk to the protesters and warn them this was happening and say, do not go to war with these cops. They know this is what's being planned. And Ramisi couldn't get hold of the megaphone for you. But he was saying that you were there to keep the peace. So that video, Ash, right? Because even people who like me and who like you are saying, he's signaling to the cop, though, and the cop is signaling back to him. Can you see why people are saying that? Oh, my God.
100%. 100%. The problem you got is, though, it's like, you know, what am I signaling then? All these people want to, but what am I signaling? What are you actually saying I'm doing here? Because I know what I'm doing, you know? At the time when the video was sent to me, it was a low quality. I was looking it off my phone, you know? All I could see was me doing this in my ear. Do you know what I mean? That's what I was doing.
I do that often because I have itchy ears. So I immediately went to that myself and I was like, oh my God, if somebody caught me doing that, would they automatically say that I was signaling, right? But it was obviously the sequence of events, right? The sequence of, and so you've seen it up close. You've seen it now, haven't you? Properly.
Since then, yesterday, you know, there's been a super HD 4K version slowed down in, you know, zooms, you know, like it's just beyond ridiculous. And like I said, I sit in the truth, so I've got nothing to worry about. You know, these people have got more time on their hands than they should. You know, if this is what you're actually worried about now, whilst this is going on in this country, the problems we currently have in this country, if this is what you're focused on, you're focused on the wrong things. And this is exactly what these people want. You know, the only people we should be worried about right now is our own government and the mainstream media. They're the two people that are doing everything in this country, but everyone just laps it up, you know? I can't really say much more, you know. At the end of the day,
we've got so many comments. You know, we have. And the thing is, I really respect the fact that you were prepared to come on and talk, actually, because one, obviously, I've had a lot of emails because you were on the show on Monday. So it's like people are like, Sonia, you aware of this? So so some people are saying on the chat that you're avoiding it. You're avoiding actually dealing with the video itself and asking us to look elsewhere. Now, Ash, let me just suspend everything for a second, right? Because you and I know we're living in a world where we are being taught to turn on each other.
Absolutely.
We are being taught to be absolutely paranoid, right? Absolutely paranoid about these things.
You know what we are? Do you know what we are, Sonia? We're faithless. That's what we are in this country. Now, I'm not talking about God. I'm just talking about faith in general. Faith in your fellow human being. Faith in the situation that we find ourselves in. Everybody's faithless. And when you're faithless, you're hopeless. And that's what gets you turning on one another. And believe me, if they can turn on me and start pointing the finger, they can turn on anyone and start pointing the finger. And this is exactly the tactics of people who don't want the truth to get out there. They want us arguing amongst ourselves rather than focusing on the people who are actually causing these problems in this country right now.
Craig says we should be allowed to challenge him. And I agree.
Absolutely.
We absolutely.
I agree.
None of us should be above challenge, right? People challenge me on a constant basis. I've had people in here this morning talking about how I'm on some kind of Freemason watch list. So I get it all the time. But I also understand how these things work. I have a deranged ex-cop who has been running around accusing me of being involved in a child trafficking ring, which is not true and is actually obviously defamatory, but puts my life in jeopardy. So I do understand that the moment that you put yourself out there, you become subject to the whims of the internet and all manner of people who might want to get a lift on the back of your name. But Ash, So you were not, it appeared you were nodding to somebody, right? Because here's the thing, I want this to be the last time you ever have to talk about this. I want you to be able to,
I can tell you now, this will be the last time I'm talking about this.
I want you to be able to use this video so that the moment it comes up, you can just pop this video and say, here's your answer. This is what I've had to say about it, because we are talking about a seriously viral video, right?
It's gone ridiculous.
One of these videos alone had 2 million hits.
Of all the things that I've done in the past 4 years, you know, outside the MHRA, closing vaccine centres down, you know, talking up for my fellow, all the things that I've done in the last 4 years, this is what's actually gone viral. And it's just, so to me, it's just a joke. This is why, you know, anyone who's listening to this, you know, go onto my profile, go and look at who I am, go and look at what I've done, go and look at what I've said about this in the last 4 days. You know, I've just taken the piss out of this because to me, it is a joke. You know, people actually think I'm some kind of Donnie Brasco right now. It's just like, I honestly don't know what to say anymore, you know.
That is what happens, though. That's what happens with the internet. And in part, are people like you and I responsible for that as well, though? Because we also sometimes get it wrong, don't we? Well,
listen, we're only human, Sonia, and I've got it wrong many a time, you know. But as a man, when I do, I hold my hands up and I tell people I've got it wrong, because I'm not out here to deceive anyone. Since the start of COVID, you know, the only reason I started that page is because I could see the lies and the deceit that was coming out of our mainstream media. You know, that's why I started the page. That's how I shot to fame amongst people, because I was the one out there talking at the demos. I was the one out there reporting on what was going on, calling out the nonsense, you know. And then for some now, you know, that video is enough to just condemn me for life. And you know, look, at the end of the day, some people are never going to have their opinions changed. They have their opinion on me, and that's fine, you know. But I can categorically tell you now, what you think is going on in that video is not going on. If I did make eye contact with that guy, then it was simply just a nod of acknowledgement. That's it. There's nothing else to it. I wasn't warning the police of anything. I wasn't, you know, contacting them in any way. I can't say any more on it, Sonia. You know, people are just going to assume what they want to assume. Those that know me and know what I've done in the last 4 years will know what a load of nonsense it all is.
Yes, but so the thing is obviously that I want to clear up as much as humanly possible, not just for you, but also for me, because I'm a journalist who has supported you and has continued to support you online, as indeed have many people who have experienced you and said you're a genuine fella. You've been called every name under the sun this week. And
can I just butt in there? This is also what proves what a load of nonsense it is. I have been called every single name under the sun, from an undercover police officer to a far right racist EDL thug to a far left Antifa protester to a Mossad agent now. You know, that alone should tell you what a load of nonsense it is. People are just throwing whatever they want, determining behind, you know, how they feel about what's going on right now. Whatever side of the spectrum you sit, that's where I am right now, you know. And that alone should just tell you what a load of nonsense it is.
But some people are absolutely convinced. Randy said, seen the video now. OMG, he is so caught in the act. And people say,
caught in the act of what, though?
Huh?
Caught in the act of what, though? This is what I mean. Like, nobody can go on.
Actually, hold on a second, Ash. That's a good point. In the comments, right, the people who believe Ash is an infiltrator, do tell us what you believe he has been caught doing and what it's about, because that I haven't got an answer to yet, and I would like.
Nobody has. Nobody's got an answer to that, because there is no answer to that. People just want to make up what they want to make up, you know. And once you get to that point of where you don't have the answer after that, that's when they just continue to make up stuff. You know, someone said the other day that apparently I was, you know, with my ear and nodding to the copper and all that, apparently I was calling in the police for my own arrest. It's like, I can't, you know, I was arrested that night. I didn't get out until 4:30 the next morning, you know, like I don't know, Sonia. I can only say what I can only say, which is the truth. It's down to people to whether or not they want to believe it or not. If they don't, then that's on them. That's a you problem. And it doesn't really bother me. It has no effect on my life, you know.
Well, now, so this is interesting, right? So here we go. So Sean said, pointing out, folks, maybe it is just a theory. And I haven't seen it, can't comment, says Brett. Right. Well, Brett, I'm sure you will after this. And Chris said, yes, he's trying to ridicule straight out of the establishment playbook. So, and as Craig points out, Ash, here's the thing, is that in some people's minds, it doesn't matter what you say here now, you will now always be guilty because of what they observed in that video, right?
Yeah, yeah. You can't change people's minds whose minds don't want to be changed, you know. At the end of the day, once you get something in your mind and you believe that, it's very hard to come away from it, you know. But, you know, this is how we operate. This is how people operate. I've seen it time and time again throughout the movement, if that's what you want to call it, you know. Once everything sort of went back to normal after COVID, once we sort of half got our you know, our freedoms back, that's when fingers started getting pointed amongst a lot of people, you know, because nobody had any idea of what to do next.
Right.
So to remain relevant with other people, they just started pointing the finger. The biggest problem you have now, though, Sonia, is that mainstream, social media has now become a breeding ground for people to make money. You know, monetization has absolutely killed social media. And, you know, a lot of these people are sharing this video now. It's not because they're bothered about the truth or they want to help people. It's because they're getting clicks and they're getting a lot of money off of the back of what they post. So, you know, I'll leave it at that.
That is a reality. And I'm very angry with that. Those big social media accounts that are anonymous and they are just spewing out pure fear porn. So Tone Dial says, explain what you were doing. Has he not explained what he was doing? I mean, so Ash, do you actually recall that moment though?
Not really, if I'm honest. You know, this is why when the original guy sent it to me, you know, he's saying to me, you contacted the police here. And I was just like, it got my back up. I was just like, what the, you know, what are you even talking about? You know, people don't have the ability to see past what they want to see. You know, no one wants to give you the benefit of the doubt now. You know, everyone's guilty in some way of doing something. You know, half these people who are accusing me have done absolutely sweet F all in the last 4 years, you know.
Story.
And now they want to point fingers at people, you know, who've been out there and tried to make a difference, you know. Everyone wants the story. Everyone wants to be the hero, you know.
Right. CHB said, did you signal to the cop? It's a yes or no answer.
If I signaled to him, it was merely an acknowledgement of seeing each other. That's it.
Do you recall seeing him before? Because one of the things that somebody suggested to me was that you may have both been acknowledging each other as two people who were trying to keep peace on both sides.
Very possible. You know, you got to remember as well, Sonia, I've been out here for 4 years. I've dealt with hundreds, if not thousands of police officers over the years, you know. Whenever we used to go out and we used to do our demos weren't about trashing the police and you know, making them the enemy. At the end of the day, we need the police on side if we're ever going to change what's going on, you know. So I've had many encounters with the police. I've spoken to them on thousands and thousands of occasions. There are videos of me talking to the police, reasoning with them, you know. To me, the police ain't my enemy. They are just people doing a job. Unfortunately, yeah, they're being run by psychopaths, liars, you know, in my eyes, terrorists, you know. The current crop of politicians we have in this country are just terrorists in suits and skirts, you know. That's my view. The biggest thing I want to challenge today, though, is the links to Tommy Robinson, which is just getting out.
Let's talk about it.
Let's talk about it. So there's pictures of me going around with a photo of Tommy Robinson. For some people, you know, guilt by association is enough now. So if that's the case, and I've been pictured with Tommy Robinson, and that's enough for people to condemn me, then what about the people that have had a photo with me now? Are you now condemned because I've had a photo with Tommy Robinson?
To a degree, I am condemned.
There you go.
I don't give a flying about that, right? Because I've you know, I know who I am, and that is enough, right?
Yeah.
But what I am concerned about is how those things whipped around, and I was shocked, Ash. I was honestly shocked when I saw the video and when I saw the response to it. And I just know also that some people will never be convinced regardless. There are also bad faith players online and in my chat at this moment in time, right? And they've come only to cause trouble. They're not interested in the work I do.
They don't care about the truth.
No, they don't care about the truth. But the thing is that I need you just to be very straight with me. And that is, did you signal to the cop, yes or no?
No, I didn't signal to the cop for any nefarious reasons. If I signaled to the cop, it was merely because we locked eyes and I acknowledged him. That is it. Can't say any more. You know, as for the Tommy Robinson thing, the reason why I have the photo on my profile is because on that day I was actually working with my friend who is an independent journalist like yourself, Sonia. You know, two of the biggest and best independent journalist in the country I know, you know. And I was there that day recording his documentary because he had an interview with Tommy Robinson, you know. But people don't care. All they want to do is crop the photo out with the text at the bottom of it explaining exactly what I was doing that day, because people want to make stories up that suit their own narratives.
Yeah. And I mean, that is a reality. The thing is ultimately, and this is what I don't like about what's happened, right, is ultimately there is a mark over you now. Now, what if we suspend all that and say, but this kid, I know you're not a kid, but you know what I'm saying? This guy has put himself out there, you know, since 2020, and he's been prepared to take the flak for it. And now all of a sudden, because of one video where, imagine if he is entirely innocent. Think about that. Just imagine, because some of you have already got him guilty no matter what. And you're not going to change your mind because it serves your own purpose. The thing is I really think that if people online are going to be literally talking about other people like this, they have to reveal their identity, right? They have to reveal their identity, okay? Because I think that it's really appalling. There's one or two characters here who I know from online, and they say the most egregious stuff about me. And they could be anybody. They could literally be MI5 agents, right?
You know? Pointing fingers and all that, you know?
Yeah, exactly. So I think that it would be it's almost irrelevant to a degree how many times I ask Ash, did you signal to a cop? Are you a police infiltrator? Because I think people are going to make up their own minds anyway. I think that is the reality. MB, you're asking, what do you think, Sonia? I do not think that Ashley Bennett is a police infiltrator. That is what I think. Now, Ash, don't take this the wrong way. I could be wrong, right? I could be wrong because
you have to play devil's advocate. That's life. If you can sit on something and only see one side of the argument and then not even challenge your own thoughts, you're not being true to yourself, you know?
Yeah, exactly. So Ash, this has not been a great week for you, has it? Has it put you off of the movement? Because the very people who you're supposed to be on the same side with, some of them have really turned against you and will use this.
If I'm perfectly honest, Sonia, the movement died a long time ago. A long time ago. There is no movement no more. All we seem to have now is paranoid, delusional people pointing the fingers at everyone, not actually doing anything themselves, getting off their asses, challenging the right places. Now, all they want to do now is look a certain way in front of their own following. You know, let
me just interrupt it because I don't like the way some people are trying to twist this. No, Emma, I am not trying to tell you not to believe your eyes. No, I'm not. I'm telling you to grow the F up and learn to understand yourself to such a degree that you're not going to be swayed by anonymous accounts online. So if you saw that video and you saw quite clearly that Ash was signaling to a cop and a cop was signaling back to him, and it did look like that. I absolutely agree, right? But things can look a million ways online. I would like to see different angles to that camera, by the way. That's what I would like to see. I'd like to see different angles to that camera because that may tell us a completely different picture. But it's so easy to be online criticizing people, right?
Of course, I can get a video, Sonia, right now of somebody beating someone up, put a title with it, yeah, and say something along the lines of racist man beats up this person, yeah? And then everyone views it, everyone believes that's what it is. But then the first 3 seconds is the complete opposite, where the guy was actually bullying him first. You know, it's too easy to make up stories and get people to believe what they want them to believe, you know.
Robert Tideman said, let's not have another Lucy Letby with Ash. And that's the thing. I think there is a danger here. It's
trial by media. It's trial by mob, you know.
How is that? How has that actually impacted you this week? Were your children put online, Ash?
Yeah, I've got some absolute nut job who's been after me for the last 4 years. He believes I'm a Mason. You know, it's comical. Like I said, you know, I've been called a conspiracy theorist for the last 4 years, yeah, and I've defended people that are called conspiracy theorists. But people like this are the genuine conspiracy theorists out there. They have zero evidence to back up their wild accusations. They go on video footage that they weren't even there at. They take stills from videos and use them as some kind of, you know, evidence that I'm throwing up signs of 60s and everything. It's comical. And to be honest with you, like I said, I'm not bothered. I know what the truth is. Yeah, if I was lying, I'd be bothered. I know what living with guilt feels like, Sonia. So I'm exempt from anything here. It doesn't bother me. That's why, if you go on my profile, I've taken the piss out of it because it is comical to me.
Yeah.
I don't take it serious.
Right, exactly. Yeah, well, I think he has a right to be angry, actually, Rowie. If you just spent a week being accused of something, and I think you have a right to be angry. But people are also saying on here that actually what you're being accused of is really small fry compared to what is really going on, right? And that's another thing is, have you been used as a distraction?
Maybe it's quite possible. You know, I sent you the footage. I'll be posting it to my own page after this so people can see it. You know, but I've got footage from that day off of my camera, stuff that people haven't even seen. You know, and I've got a video of me going into the crowd as it kicks off. Yeah, between the police and the protesters, and I am screaming at those on the protesting side to stop what they are doing, because I knew that the likes of the BBC and Sky and GB News and everybody else, yeah, were just going to use it as a way to fire shots at those who have legitimate concerns about how this country is being run and what is currently going on our streets.
I mean, it's so powerful. I'm so glad that you actually came on. I'm really glad. I was disappointed.
I did doubt doing it, Sonia. You know, I really did, because as far as I'm concerned, I just want this squashed now. The more I keep talking about it, the more fuel I keep adding to the fire. But ultimately, I am in the right here. I have nothing to hide, and that is why I've come on today to give my side and defend myself. You know, I won't have people making up stories about me or sharing my children's pictures online so that they can then, you know, make other people believe that they're warped fantasies. You know.
Let me read you some of this, right? Steve says, trust your guts, people. And Mike says, let us see the video, please. It's online, mate. It's huge.
I even posted it to my own Instagram page the day that I found it so that I could challenge it. Well, yesterday, Instagram decided to take down that post of me challenging it. So make of that what you will.
Right. I'm just going to call out a troll. His name's Andy. He's in our comments, right?
Oh, I know this guy. Yeah, I know this guy.
Says the most disgusting thing about people. Who are you, Andy? Who are you, Andy?
I know him. I know who he is.
Do you?
Who he is now. Yeah, right. I know who he is now.
Okay, let's not reveal his identity here, but he is somebody who needs to be watched. He's like, as people have been listening to what you've had to say, right? He's just there going waffle, blah, 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 distract. You're not listening. You came here with your own preset, because I know what kind of person you are, Andy, right? I know what kind of person you are, and you're not somebody I'd like to be in the same room with, frankly, because I'd be
that's not his name, by the way. That's not his name, by the way.
Right, finally, right, I'm going to ask this. W. Lennon, Sonia, you're known for asking pressing questions. So what was he doing if he was not signaling a copper? I don't know how many more ways I can ask this question.
And I don't know how many more ways I can answer it, you know. It is completely innocent. There is nothing there that people want to see. Everyone wants to make out like this is a bad action of some sorts. And you couldn't be further from the truth if you was trying. And I can't keep saying it, you know. Like I said, this will be the last time I talk in it now. If people want to continue chatting, you know, then I'll be sending them to this video once it's uploaded and they can make their minds off of it. But if you don't believe me, it doesn't bother me. It isn't going to affect my day in any way. You know, everyone has the right to an opinion. Whether it's right or wrong is something completely different.
Well, people want this conversation analysed by a statement analyst. I love the idea of that. Why not, indeed? And Craig said he's made his points. I believe him. Hope his kids are okay. Well done, Ash. And fair play coming on. Absolutely. And Delivering Liberty said, I know Ash is probably sick of discussing it, but he's again welcome to come on UNM for a right of reply as he's requested. Well, what we got here? Sonia. Lyra says, Sonia, it's not you That's the problem. You're asking the right questions. It's the way he's responding. Sonia, you're doing the best you can. Well, all I'm doing is putting to Ash the questions that people have. I'm trying to represent what people have said about this, while also at the same time giving a man who I believe is genuine a chance, a right of reply. But by the same token, I'm clearly not biased, because I wouldn't be keep going back to the same issue until it's addressed. I think that's really important. Viral video. Yes, please. We need more publicity around here. Why not? Let's bring more people to this. And Andy Bird, you can say whatever you want, but to me, you sound like a wuss, frankly. Yeah, you do. How about that? How about that, you little infiltrator? How about that? Right. So, Ash, is there anything you'd like to say before you leave us today?
The first thing I like to say, because this is on a lot of people's lips, is, a lot of people are calling me friends with Tommy Robinson, or he's my pal. I want to put it on record. I trust Tommy Robinson as far as I can kick him. The problem is, if you do not engage with people that you do not trust or do not like or do not agree with, how are we ever going to move forwards? Too many people want to condemn this man, but don't want to have sensible conversations about what he says or what he talks about, And if we don't have these sensible conversations and we do not address these, then all we're going to do is end up with the riots that we're seeing on our streets. There has to be discord. There has to be adults talking about what's happening so we can resolve what's going on for our children's futures.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. I agree with all of that. I don't think there's anything more that I can say to Ash, because even if Ash was an infiltrator, he's hardly going to come on a live stream and say right up. But it's up to you people out there to now use your own discernment, right?
And this is something a lot of people lack now, Sonia. They really lack discernment. They really lack the ability to look at things and judge it for what it is. Everyone has an agenda in some ways right now. And whether it's because you want to make money online on your website, or you want to make money off of the back of X, or you just got it in for me because you don't like me now, because you don't agree with what I'm saying, or because I didn't pledge my allegiance to certain places, It is what it is.
Well, you want to hear some of these now. The Wizard's Word says, good luck to you, Dutty Monkey. AJ Roberts says, Ash has been the main boots on the ground in London, raising the real masculine energy. Keep going, brother. Exactly, Ash, I agree, says Mrs. Pirate. Richie Rich says, leave the man's family alone. Yes, how dare you? How dare you? Ash, how do you discern an agent? This is a good question. I think this is a good and fair question for somebody who actually understands what it's like out there. Ash, how do you discern an agent provocateur in those kind of live environments, in a crowd? Beyond belief, ask that.
Well, that's why I was there that day. The reason why I'm looking around everywhere is because I'm not part of that crowd. I wasn't there supporting Tommy Robinson. I wasn't chanting his name. I was there looking around, one, for my own safety, okay? Because, like I said, I'm not part of that crowd. I was there that day observing, watching. Yeah, that's what I was there for. Because I know, just like everyone's trying to accuse me now of being, there are people like that who are there to kick things off, who are there to make people look bad. And I knew that, This is why in the video you can hear me screaming at people to stop, because this is exactly what they want. They wanted us to be looking like that, so that then in the news the next day, they can then write, all of these people are far-right, racist, EDL thugs, and they're the problem. No, they're not the problem. The problem is the government. These are the people who are out trying to explain to others that this is the problem. The government and the mainstream media are the problem in this country right now. And until we all start coming together as one and challenging in them, nothing's ever going to change over here. And if we keep pointing fingers at every single person that's out there trying to do something, you're not going to have anyone out there doing anything while you sit at home pointing the finger from behind your screens.
Thanks for being on with us, Ash. I really appreciate
it. Thank you ever so much for having me on.
I know what it takes, though. I know what it takes after the kind of week that you've had to then put yourself... People, bear in mind, this is live. Like, this is live. When I interviewed somebody who was accused of trafficking somebody, he admitted live to me that this is not Ash, he admitted live to me, this is Sean Atwood I'm talking about, he admitted live to me in an interview that he'd been taking nude pictures of a woman and putting them on a trafficking website. So anything can happen in a live interview, right? Anything can happen. The Wizard's Word says Ash speaks the truth. There's always going to be people who disagree, and there's always going to be people who agree. I think
I can't be everyone's cup of tea, Sonia. And if I was, that would just make me a mug.
What a pain in the arse you'd be, honestly. Who wants to be everybody's cup of tea? That's just horrible, right? It's just horrible. But for the most part, I think people are really grateful that you've been prepared to come on, honestly. And I am. I definitely am. We've got over 3,000 people watching on the live stream.
Wow. I appreciate you for having me on and giving me the chance to give my side, because, you know, like you said, this has gone viral now. I don't think I'll ever match the numbers of people seeing this interview now, you know, from where it's gone. But hopefully, you know, if you know me, you believe me, you'll share this, you'll get it within your groups for other people to see. And for those that don't believe me, that's a you problem, not me. And it ain't going to bother me.
That's right. That's a you problem. Take good care of yourself, everybody.
Thank you, my
Dutty Monkey, the man at the center of the viral video, which even for those on our stream who haven't watched it, they absolutely will go and watch it now. Take good care of yourself and leave his family alone, people. That is low and disgusting. Take care, Ash.
Thank you, darling. Thank you, Sonia,
for being with us. Really appreciate it. Well, that was fascinating. I liked Ash last time he was on. That's all I can remember, right? Says Mike. Take care, Ash, says Dark Side of the Moon. Now, Rock Lover. No, somebody has suggested before that I was being set up, right? Now, here's the thing, is that who can ever tell? Who can ever tell? All I know is that I've observed this man over a period of like 4+ years, and his actions to me have been decent and good and for the common good and for regular people. It's definitely not working in the hierarchy. Leslie said, OMG, love these comments. So easy to judge, isn't it? So easy to judge. But for the most part, you can see that there's one main person there, that Andy character, right? And the thing is, Andy, here's the thing about us. We like free speech around here, because otherwise you'd have been gone from time, because you're literally only here to railroad what Ash was saying and not have anybody hear him, and just keep like constantly distracting in the stream. But we didn't get rid of you, right? We didn't get rid of you. We kept you in because, apart from anything else, I like to play with people like you. Shinri said, can't wrong Ash on his final words just there. Take care, mate. And Nikki Day, good point. Free speech means the right to disagree. It absolutely does. Yes, it absolutely does. Deirdre said 77th Brigade in this chat. Deirdre, highly likely. Highly likely, because the government cabinet office were forced to admit that they had been spying on me since 2020 by their 77th military unit. So highly likely. Dark Side of the Moon, spill the tea about Sean Atwood. I used to do, for a very brief period of time, I did podcasts with Sean, and I actually really enjoyed it. And then there was a big hoo-ha involving one of his guests called Callie Diamond. And it was basically, he'd claimed that he was doing some kind of prank in which he was pretending that him and Callie were involved in some kind of drug deal and he was trafficking her. And then somebody who had disliked Sean Atwood, Andrew Gine, had been sent it and had been made to believe that this was a real thing that was going on, that Sean was really doing a deal, etc., etc. Anyway, I just thought this is really weird stuff, because I was doing these podcasts with him and I was like, I don't actually really know Sean that well. So I decided that the best thing to do was to do a live interview with him, right? And I still have a copy of it. So I did a live interview with Sean. I'll never forget it. In fact, a lot of people call Sean Atwood Prince Atwood, and it's based on the Emily Maitlis and Prince Andrew interview, and then mine and Shaw's interview, because it was a car crash. It was, but I had no idea what he was going to say live, and that's the thing when you bring people on live, you've got no idea what they're going to say. Sean ended up admitting that he had taken these highly sexual nude pictures of this trafficking victim who he was also raising money for on his platform, and had gotten a property for, was renting a property from the very kind viewers who had donated this money. And it turned out that Sean was actually having a relationship with her, and he had taken these nude pictures of her and uploaded it to this kind of trafficking prostitution site. And he admitted all of that on the live stream. I was like, what am I listening to? What am I hearing here? And that, of course, was, probably don't need to tell anybody, the last time I ever worked again with Sean Atwood. Blessed said, where is Callie now, Sonia? Is she okay? Wasn't she involved in, wasn't somebody I don't know the full story, so I'm going to be really, really careful here. But I do believe that she was involved in a criminal charge to do with the death of somebody and to do with a car. But I'm going to be careful there. Wade actually remembers that interview and said, I never watched Sean Atwood since. Crazy Bunny remembers it so clearly. It's LP said, yeah, of course you didn't. Oh, grow up. Honestly, some silly people around, right? It's like I'm not afraid of nothing. Truly, I'm not. I mean, I've talked about this before. I think I might have that neuron missing. And somebody was asking me a question about the ads on YouTube. Yeah, I do have ads, and they are useful because they do fund this live stream, right? That's the reality. And when we're able not to have to be monetized on YouTube, that would be great. It actually will free up a lot of the things that I can say to you out there. Who's this? You were trolled. There was a blatant signal to police and a response. What's that? Yes, Rock Lover. He absolutely did try to discredit me. Thank you, Lennon. Sonia, I've just watched your documentary on Little Maddie. Very professional and eye-opening, worth a watch. Thank you so much. Dark Side of the Moon, a heart to you too. Leg building, Dorchester, you're late. You've missed the insanity that's been going on around here. But you know, at the end of the day, right, when it comes down to Ashley Bennett, you're going to believe whatever you want to believe. That's the bottom line. You're going to believe whatever you want to believe. But all I've done is what I aim to do here, and that is invite people on and get them to tell their story. And I repeatedly asked him the same question over and over and over again, right? And right, I want to move on to something a lot lighter before we end the show, because I think we need it. Let me just check that I've pretty much covered everything. I hate to think that I hadn't. What a day. High intensity. There's a lot of stuff going on, right? There's a lot of stuff going on. And it is, you know, we are surrounded by, obviously we're surrounded by people, by infiltrators, and even into the truth movement. By the way, I don't consider myself part of a truth movement because it's not my gig, right? It's not my gig at all. And I don't mean that in a bad way. It's just because some of the people who actually infiltrate it, I do not want to be associated with, such as that ex-cop who ran around saying that I was involved in the trafficking of children, for goodness sake. Absolutely psycho sick. And I don't want to be associated with that. Yeah, it's life, Jim. Sonia, you just touched your ear. You know what folk would think now. I do. I mean, I do. It's really problematic, isn't it? It's puzzling how Healing the Silence said it's puzzling how some people come into this stream just to attack Sonia. What is your goal? Mate, I have to have them. I have to have them, because if I'm just talking to people who actually like what I'm saying, agree with what I'm saying, what's the purpose of that? I need dissenters. I need it. Apart from anything else, I love having a good old box with them, right? I do know, Matt, I do have bills to pay like everybody else. Bill said, this is a manipulative conversation. I'm not anonymous. I don't know what you're talking about, Bill. Blessed Sean, she can't watch the chat and listen to him properly. Yeah, that's absolutely right. And you repeatedly ignored questions folks asked you to ask him. What questions did I ignore? Because I don't believe I ignored anything. I asked him repeatedly about the signalling. I asked him about his associations with Tommy Robinson. What else? Yes, what a show today. Fast-paced and brilliant. Thank you, Kath. Lyra, you don't appear not anonymous to me. I don't know what's going on. I do have hands, which is clearly problematic from an Illuminati perspective, saying in the comments. Yeah, Lyra Midsummer says, makes you wonder why we try to get the truth out when there are so many horrible people around. Cavan says that the middle finger is somewhat useful at times. I agree. It's one of my favorite fingers to use. Right, let's talk about something that will hopefully kind of soothe us down, because there's so much going on, right? It's difficult to know who's who. And all we can do is be discerning, really. And I think a good starting point is if a massive account, even a small account, is anonymous and it's making huge claims about other people who are putting their neck out there, then that account has to immediately be subject to questioning, because who are they? If somebody comes to me and they show me their full identity and say, Sonia, I have these issues, they have much more credibility in my eyes because they are prepared to stand up behind their identity. But if they're hiding online then and insulting people, then there's already a problem right there. So let us not lose focus with what is really going on. And that is, there is dawn raids being taken place. People are literally being removed from their houses for gesticulating wildly in front of police. There's a clampdown online. We have the most senior cop telling us that even questioning if there's a two-tier police force is a problem. These are real serious things that are going on, and it scares the life out of me. And by the way, I have received so many emails and messages from you all over the country. And I want to come back to this on Monday because we're running out of time now. But like, for example, actually, I'm going to read Lorraine's. Good morning to you, Lorraine. I should say Grand Rising because somebody else will accuse me of being involved in Illuminati if I say good morning. And Lorraine made a really good point. It said, hi, Sonia. I was dismayed and angered when I saw this quote from Burnley MP Oliver Ryan in the Burnley Express online newspaper. His tone was very threatening. And I read it, and I'm going to read it to you. And it says, hate and violence will never win. This is our town. You do not represent us. Oh, why has it suddenly gone funny on me? Hold on, people. Let me just try and get this right. I said, hate and violence will never win. This is not our town, and these people do not represent us. Don't let our town down. You're not protesting. You're breaking the law, and the government will ensure you feel the full weight of your actions if you take part in this. Take part in this, and whether it's days or weeks, expect a knock on the door and dragging into court. That's what we're dealing with. We're dealing with politicians all around the country who want to see you banged up for expressing an opinion. And we still haven't got to the root cause of why people are rioting in the first place. And also, Claire also sent me an email. Hello to you there, Claire. And it's a very detailed one, which I'm going to go into on Monday. And I'm going to refer back on Monday to a post that I still haven't had time to look at today. And that was to do with Logan Nine Fingers, because it actually covers the issues of Israel. Has Israel or any other foreign powers any involvement with what is going on our street? Because many people believe they have, right? And these are big, important issues. And I think it's really important. And yeah, as far as that Labour councillor is concerned, by the way, as people raised that in the comments, he was suspended from Labour. And after he was seen saying far-right rioters should have this cut, right? And this is terrible. This is absolutely awful. I referred to it at the start of the stream, but it's absolutely awful. He's now under police investigation, actually, as he should be. His name is Ricky Jones. He is the Labour councillor for Dartford. And that, to me, was a clear incitement. A clear incitement. And by the way, just before we come to the last item, Propaganda Corner, Good Morning Britain. You know, I hate that programme, right? Hit with closing in on 10,000 Ofcom complaints now after Ed Balls, who is now the presenter, a former Labour MP, interviewed his wife, Yvette Cooper, who is now the Home Secretary, with Kate Garraway there, whose husband, now dead, used to be a Labour spin doctor and was very much part of the entire movement of, Blair, New Labour. So there was 3 people on the screen who were talking about this, and Ofcom quite reasonably have been hit with all of these complaints. I made a comment about it on Twitter. And on social media. And ITV's Good Morning Britain is literally the hub of propaganda, just as it was with COVID narrative and the reprehensible Piers Morgan. But ITV's Good Morning Britain is front and centre in pushing the government narrative and to the detriment of people. And they had 3 puppets, literally 3 puppets on screen at one time to a large audience, And as an aside, I once encountered, I'm sure I've told you this story before, I once encountered Yvette Cooper outside Parliament, and I asked her what she thought of where her husband, Ed Balls, had been that weekend. She said, I don't know where he's been this weekend. And I said, well, I do. He was at a Bilderberg meeting. And then she sort of walked off and didn't want to talk to me. And the point is that all these people are thoroughbred globalists, rather. And what happened there was absolutely outrageous. Absolutely outrageous. So yes, let me see what else. Oh, I have to mention this because this is just shocking. A number of you have sent me this story. Absolutely awful. Adam Britton, a former BBC zoologist, There's pictures of him online with David Attenborough. He's been found guilty of filming himself raping and torturing his dogs. And he's been jailed for 10 years in Australia. And I can hardly look when I'm saying that because it's just unbelievable. The judge rightly described Britain's actions as inconceivable depravity. And a reminder, of course, that the BBC's cherished paedophile statue that stands out front and centre of Broadcasting House, which was created by Eric Gill, who raped his children, his sister and the family dog. And it seems that the BBC seems to attract certain dodgy types. I hope Britain gets the expected prison welcome that I know that some criminals are absolutely capable of giving him. And it really is quite shocking. He began offending apparently in 2014, sexually abusing his own pet dogs. I just can't even get my head around it. He was arrested in April 22. He was sharing his videos on Telegram, for goodness sake. And I mean, the amount of dogs that he's actually abused and tortured and terrorized. He had a secret torture room, which he constructed on his property. People like this should never be able to walk amongst us ever again. I don't think 10 years is long enough. Bestiality is absolutely linked to child abuse and other forms of abuse. And he was sourcing his dogs from Gumtree in Australia. Oh, I can't even bear it. His barrister asked not to be named because she had been subject to personal abuse and threats, yet she argued her life for him. I haven't got her name. Otherwise, I'd share it because it was not a court order. And she argued Britain should be allowed to own or live with any creatures other than mammals. And the ban should not last a lifetime because of the reasonable prospects of rehabilitation. The man admits to having a paraphilic disorder, even in his own words. I mean, he's a psycho, he's a pervert, he's just deranged, he's all of those things. And we can call it something nice like a paraphilic disorder. But at the end of the day, keep that man away from human beings. Just put him into self-containment forever, frankly. And by the way, thank you so much, Blake Wood, for my Andy Warhol effect style picture, which is absolutely fabulous. 4 images of me, and it looks very much Andy Warhol-esque. Thank you. I really appreciate that. Absolutely tremendous. And I love it very, very, very much. And just to say, the video that we referred to at the start of the show, Jamie Newton worked in maintenance at Manchester Metropolitan University from 2015 to 2021. He came to me, he made a series of curious claims with evidence of what he had witnessed during C19. He describes his information as a smoking gun that counteracts the COVID narrative. And it's very interesting. It's about a Manchester University that he was working at. And he was privy to a great deal of information, including when Wuhan is in partnership with Manchester Metropolitan University, Wuhan University of Technology, including character Charles Lieber. Check him out. He's been convicted. And what Jamie was describing was that when Wuhan went into lockdown, 200 staff of Manchester University came back to Manchester. How did they get out of Wuhan? That was one of his first questions. There's loads of questions he raises. I suspect in many respects at the moment we have more questions than answers. But the point is, what Jamie witnessed was really interesting. And we fired off freedom of information requests to Manchester University. I'm itching my ear again. That's a problem, isn't it? But we fired off these FOIs to Manchester University, and they were just messing around, gaslighting us with semantics. No, that we weren't aligned with Wuhan then, and then we were able to prove actually you were already aligned with Wuhan. And it meant that every answer they gave us, which hinged on their first answer where they said they weren't aligned with Wuhan, was all wrong. So we then asked for a review. They gave us a review, said no, they stood by it. But Jamie had witnessed other things. He'd witnessed these kind of the locking down of Nightingale nurses, the quarantining rather of Nightingale nurses and of Greater Manchester Police. Weird things were happening. Students died, at least one died, maybe even more. One fell from the top of the stairs. Jamie describes what was essentially like a criminal environment. He said absolutely no way should any of that happen. It's a fascinating conversation, and I urge you to listen to it. I'll put a link in the description. I will put a link in the description. And thank you, John, for sending me that very interesting video of Brendan Kavanagh, who I'm not actually familiar with, but has huge YouTube. And he was asking questions, very sensible questions, at a protest amongst anti-fascists. I think it was in East London on Wednesday. And the guy that he was talking to could have just literally walked away. This Brendan was not harassing him in any way, but this guy kept turning to police and saying, you know, can you do something about this guy and everything, wouldn't answer the questions. And Brendan was just asking about questions about military age men coming in on boats. And it was honestly really embarrassing to watch. Not what Brendan was doing. He seemed a very reasonable interviewer. I wasn't familiar with him. I don't know his other work. But he's, you know, he seemed decent. And honestly, and I think, you know, I think the point that John made when he was sending me it was that these people seem incredibly uncomfortable, right? They do. And so yeah, it was an awkward conversation with a counter protester. But watch it, people. The title is Soy Boy Demands Police Protection from Real Questions. I don't necessarily agree with that title, but, you know, still check it out. Check it out. Absolutely. John, thank you for sending me your weather modifications, geoengineering, chemtrail pictures. Call it what you want. Just call it, because they refuse to in legacy media, but we don't round here. We want to keep covering this topic, and eventually I believe it will turn into a project that we can all use. Now, it is 9 minutes past 11. I cannot believe how late it is. And I want to refer briefly to the fact that while all of this stuff is going on, we're forgetting who we are, what our talents are, what our abilities are. When I studied psychology, I was very interested in the theory of 7 intelligences by Howard Gardner. Anybody heard of that? It's actually the theory of multiple intelligences. Because the thing about intelligence tests is they are really regressive. They're just based on, they're not based on looking at the person as a whole. They are kind of culturally biased. And they're just fairly hopeless in ascertaining a person's true intelligence, whereas Howard Gardner came up with multiple intelligences, and they include, so he originally proposed 6 intelligence types, but that's now grown to 9 intelligences. And these include verbal linguistic intelligence, which is being capable of learning new languages and understanding how to use languages to achieve goals. Then there is logical mathematical intelligence, which is being able to analyze problems logically and solve abstract problems. Then there is spatial visual intelligence, which is being able to use visual aids to arrive at a solution. And an example of this would be using something like Photoshop to design a new logo. That would be an example of spatial visual intelligence. Then there is bodily kinesthetic intelligence. Well, that is being capable of using your entire body. We see at the Olympics. Simone Biles is absolutely bodily kinesthetic intelligence, 100%, no doubt about it. Then you have musical intelligence, being able to produce and analyze pitch, rhythm, and sound. And when we were at uni, our lecturers tested us for these intelligences, and I actually scored very highly on the following 2. And that was interpersonal intelligence, which is being able to detect and explore the intentions, moods, and desires of others. And intrapersonal intelligence, being able to fully understand oneself and to effectively regulate one's own life and emotions. And then there is naturalist intelligence, which is being able to recognize and classify various plants and environmental species in one's surroundings. And then finally, there is an existential intelligence, which is being able to ask deep questions, deep and critical questions about the broader human experience. Now, do any of you recognize yourself in those intelligences? Because what is your intelligence? In other words, what is your talent? Here's how to find out. I'm all about being authentic, being your true self, you know, people being in their element. And a lot of the time, people lack self-esteem. They are not confident in their abilities, and they feel they don't even have talents. I believe literally everybody has a talent, has an ability, and some people have many. And if you're experiencing an identity crisis about who you are, and why ever not, because you're bombarded with images on a constant basis telling you that you should work better, be better, talk better, don't scratch your ears because you'll look like an infiltrator. Look, I'm not making light of that, but the point is that you can see how easily, right, things can be misinterpreted. But my point still remains, and that is we've been taught not to value ourselves and our talents. And I want you to do that. And so some of the things that I do is, for example, take an assessment of yourself, take a life assessment. And what you will find from that is you'll discover how you perform in various aspects of life. And also ask the opinions of your friends about your worst and best qualities. Go on, open yourself up to it. Imagine that. But also start with yourself. Determine what makes you feel strong, right? There are circumstances in life where everybody feels light and easy, right? And super breezy. And there are also times when you feel at your strongest and at your weakest. You can use these times to find opportunities to find out where your strengths and your weaknesses lie. And another really good way of finding out your natural talent, and that is ask people who knew you as a child about the things that you loved as a child. Right? You're not going to believe this. When I was like 7 years old, I told everybody I wanted to be a TV producer. But the only thing that worried me was I didn't want to work at Christmas. I didn't want to work on Christmas Day. That was at 7 years old. And I, essentially produce myself these days. And I've been in TV and media for a very, very long time. And with no education. I didn't even leave school with proper CSEs. I did my psychology degree in my 40s. And also identify the things that you spend most of your time and your money on. That will also give you a clue about your talents and your abilities. This never fails. Write a journal, just free flow about your thoughts. And also, this is what I do. I'm a talent spotter, because when you are able to spot talents in other people, you should be also able to spot talents in yourself. And I think these things are important. Let's have a look at your talents. Oh my God, these comments are going super, super, super fast, lovely people. And I'm trying to get to the bottom of them to find out where we are currently. What have we got? Where are we currently? 11, says Crazy Bunny. We've gone past that. What's terrifying? Okay. Right. Let me see. The Wizard's Words wanted to be a police officer. So glad I wasn't. Melvin, did you expose Tommy Robinson and the Israel funding? No, Melvin, I have not done that. And that's because I don't have my ducks in a row. The thing about being a journalist is I don't just spout on the internet. I always make sure that I've got the backing, because not least, I don't want to be sued. I don't want to be sued. So I will have that information. I'm still verifying it and checking it. And when I have it, you'll know about it. Simple stuff. Simple stuff. Yes, please. Let's have more likes on here, says Crazy Bunny. Oh no, that was Merv. Yes, before I end the stream, absolutely. John says it's talent just to get through each day at the moment. Well done to everyone for chugging along. Absolutely. I tried landscape painting, says the wizard. Self-taught, which is obvious. No, I've seen some of your paintings. They're beautiful. Lyra is visual and spatial awareness. I'm very good at pattern recognition. It feeds my intuition. I notice all the small details and inconsistencies others miss. What? Sophie, I don't know about a triathlon athlete dying in France, because really, let me look into that. Absolutely, let me look into that. Sean says, thanks for coming on, Ash. Well done. And Healing the Silence says, my talents are public speaking, being an author, and truth-telling with the power of spirituality. Crazy Bunny said, my talents now are modding. All that fluff and stuff says, I've been listening in. So I want you all of you, look for your talents, and not just look for your talents in yourself, look for them in other people, and also be ready to change, right? Because it could well be that some of the ideas that you've got are old. They need, being made redundant. And we often tell ourselves horrible things about ourselves based on what other people have said about us. Right? Honestly, one of the things that I really want the end of this stream always to be about, and that is to bring it back to self, because I think that's really important. Because once you know yourself, you can take on the world. You can absolutely take on the world. And you know why it's absolutely important to know your talents and to be able to utilize them? Because they're a blessing. They've been given to you. You've been blessed at birth with these individual abilities and traits to make your mark on the world. That is absolutely what I believe. And my life is an example of that. And you know what? It also improves your quality of life when you know what your talent is. And also it will help with issues like depression, all manner of things. Because once you start to get a knowledge of yourself, it can lift all of those kind of heavy clouds, and enhancing your self-confidence. Once you know your strengths, literally can change your world. Truly it can. So I just want to say thank you to everyone for all your suggestions, your donations, your support, your likes, your shares, your subscribes, and for people who are lovely on the stream, as well as the haters, because at the end of the day, the haters also bump up the algorithm, don't they? They do. So as I said at the start, Monday's show is as normal, but next Friday's show is a pre-record because I'm away for a few days. And but I have got a special birthday show lined up for you all. And of course, where would this stream be without me ending on a quote, right? And it's a George Lucas quote. And he said, everybody has talent. It's just a matter of moving around until you've discovered what it is. And on that note, have a beautiful weekend. Try not to fight too much. Let's be as discerning as humanly possible. And thank you so much, all of you, for joining me today on the live stream. Thank you always for all your chats, all your comment, everything. Love you all so much. Thank you so much, people. I will see you on Monday. God bless you all. Take care of yourself. Have a great weekend.